Chapter 49-21. Gu Changfeng unleashed a terrifying punch that collided with Yi Immortal's Genesis technique. An earth-shattering boom erupted as a powerful shockwave swept out in all directions. In the end, both Yi Immortal and Gu Changfeng shuddered and retreated a few steps. They were evenly matched. Amazing, it's a Genesis technique. Senior Gu Changfeng can actually use a Genesis technique. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Given his current eyesight, he could naturally tell that Gu Changfeng had just used a Genesis technique. In the past, Gu Changfeng could not use Genesis techniques. He had previously consulted Gu Changfeng and discussed the mysteries of the cultivation of taboo power with him. Therefore, he was quite familiar with Gu Changfeng's cultivation. Gu Changfeng was extremely talented. He was only a pinnacle almighty, but he already had a vague understanding of Genesis techniques and had touched the outline of them. However, he had only touched the outline and was still very far from truly comprehending them, let alone using Genesis techniques at the pinnacle almighty level. However, not long after, Gu Changfeng had not only comprehended them but could also use them. Could it be that Gu Changfeng had comprehended them under the 4 statues? Lu Ming immediately thought of the 4 statues. Lu Ming had comprehended the 3000th ancient secret technique under the 4 statues. Given Gu Changfeng's talent, it was normal for him to be able to comprehend Genesis techniques. Gu Changfeng's battle strength was equivalent to Prince Guangxian's when he did not know any Genesis techniques. Now that he had comprehended and used Genesis techniques, it was not impossible for his battle strength to reach the level of an invincible almighty. Yi Immortal also relied on Genesis techniques to achieve this level of battle strength. One had to admit that Gu Changfeng's talent was extremely terrifying. He was one of the top taboo physiques in the past. If he could break through to the origin realm in the future, his future achievements would most likely be on par with Fei Huang, the master of the Life Spirit Heavenly Court and the master of the Primordial Divine Court. In fact, there were very few people in history who could use Genesis techniques at the pinnacle almighty level. Yi Immortal was an exception. He was the reincarnation of the strongest patriarch in the history of the heavenly human race and had rich experience. There were very few people in history who could use Genesis techniques at the Divine Master stage who were not reincarnated. At least in this era, there weren't many. Even Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Gaishak, Infernal Fiend Lord and the others didn't know how to use Genesis arts. They relied on their talents and other powers. For example, Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji relied on the Red Scorch Immortal Light and the Black Moon Immortal Light to reach the invincible Godmaster level. As for Gaishak and Nether Fiend King, they relied on their terrifying Baleful Een energy and the Baleful Een race's unique secret technique to possess the battle prowess of an invincible Divine Master. Lu Ming, on the other hand, relied on his taboo power, the battle character secret art to increase his battle prowess by 9 times, the 3000 ancient secret arts, and the 2 secret arts he had created himself. Why are you and that skeleton able to use Genesis techniques? What exactly did you guys obtain? Yi Immortal growled in a low voice. Disbelief was written all over his face, and he couldn't figure out what was going on. The bones he spoke of were naturally the Bone Devils. He was already surprised that the Bone Devils could use Genesis arts. But now Gu Changfeng could do the same. He had fought with Gu Changfeng more than once, so he knew Gu Changfeng very well. Gu Changfeng definitely wouldn't have been able to use Genesis arts before. But now, he was able to use Genesis arts all of a sudden. He must have obtained some heaven-defying opportunity, and this opportunity must be in the Purple Heaven Grotto. Yi Immortal's heart was burning with desire. He wanted to take this opportunity for himself. He didn't associate this opportunity with the 4 statues. In fact, Yi Immortal had seen the 4 statues before. After Lu Ming left, Yi Immortal had searched every mountain and area in the Qi vein, so he naturally saw the 4 statues. Even though the mountain had collapsed, the 4 statues were still intact. He was very curious and had carefully observed them, but there was no reaction at all. They were like 4 ordinary statues and he couldn't take them away, so he left it at that. He wasn't the only one. The creatures in the forbidden area had also seen the 4 statues, but there was no reaction. Do you think you're the only one who can use Genesis arts? Bright Moon Wind Fist. Gu Changfeng sneered and continued to attack, quickly exchanging blows with Yi Immortal. While Gu Changfeng and Yi Immortal were fighting, Gaishak and Infernal Spirit King also attacked. Infernal Spirit King pounced towards Zixian, while Gaishak charged towards Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming together with Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. Absolute Demon Wall. Zixian shouted. Dense demonic qi surged from her demon wings, and the runes on them glowed. As the wings flapped, the runes and demonic qi exploded. In the next instant, a demon wall appeared in front of Gaishak and Infernal Spirit King. Break! Break! Gaishak and Infernal Spirit King roared and unleashed their terrifying attacks, bombarding the two demon walls. Boom! Boom! The demon walls shook violently, and cracks appeared on them before they finally collapsed. However, Gaishak and Infernal Spirit King were also blocked. It's that pair of wings. Gaishak and Infernal Spirit King couldn't help but look toward Zixian's wings. Zixian's pair of wings was absolutely astonishing. They could actually condense two demonic walls, which possessed astonishing defensive power. One must know that Zixian had blocked the attacks of two invincible divine masters. Such defensive power was rarely seen in the world. Yi Immortal, Gaishak and Infernal Spirit King were blocked. Lu Ming only had to face Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji, who were much easier to deal with. Lu Ming first performed the primeval style, condensing a piece of land that charged vertically toward Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. Then his figure charged towards Gu Changfeng and Zixian like lightning, intending to join them. Boom! The continent that Lu Ming had created naturally couldn't block the joint attacks of Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. The continent was destroyed by the two of them, and the remaining attacks of the two rushed towards Lu Ming like an avalanche. However, after being blocked by the primeval land, the power of their attacks was greatly reduced. Lu Ming waved his spear of combat god to block the attacks and retreated at the same time. In the end, he successfully retreated to Gu Changfeng and Zixian's side and joined them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Yi Immortal, Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Gaishak and Infernal Spirit King surrounded Lu Ming and the other two in the middle. The five of them looked a little gloomy. 5 against 3, it wasn't easy. They would definitely win, but it would be difficult to stop them. Zixian of the Demon Clan, I know you. I didn't expect you to be able to merge with the Demon Ancestor Blood Crystal and reach the peak of the Divine Master Realm. You've done something that your ancestors couldn't do. What a great opportunity! Yi Immortal didn't make a move immediately. Instead, he looked at Zixian and exclaimed. He was indeed an old monster who had lived for countless years. As the #1 patriarch of the heavenly human tribe, he had extraordinary eyesight and could tell that Zixian had merged with the Demon Ancestor Blood Crystal. Chapter 49:22. However, those who knew a little about the ancestral demon blood crystal could tell. Zixian had just merged with the ancestral demon blood crystal and was still in the early stages, so she couldn't control it well. The energy of the ancestral demon blood crystal was constantly seeping out of her body. I've merged with the ancestral demon blood crystal and will become your greatest enemy. Are you disappointed? Zixian said coldly with great confidence in her eyes. In the past, in her eyes, Yi Wuxia was an enemy that was difficult to defeat. He was too high to reach, and the distance between them was too far. But now, Yi Immortal was no longer undefeatable in Zixian's eyes. He was on the same level as her. In fact, given enough time, she might not even put Yi Wuxian in her eyes. After merging with the ancestral demon blood crystal, her potential was limitless. The demon ancestor blood crystal was an unquestionable supreme treasure of the demon race. It was simply too mysterious and contained boundless energy. She had only merged with the ancestral demon blood crystal successfully, but her cultivation had skyrocketed to the peak of the Divine Master Realm. She had directly ignored the barrier between the 9th and the peak of the Divine Master Realm. Disappointed? Why would I be disappointed? I should be happy because we have a common enemy. Yi Immortal laughed. Common enemy? Are you talking about the creatures of the Forbidden Grounds? Zixian glanced at Gaishak and the other 3 experts. Gaishak, Lord of the Underworld, Yuan Wuji, and Yuan Liuji were also a little confused. They didn't know what Yi Immortal wanted to do. However, they did not take action. This was because Yi Wuxia had sent them a voice transmission previously, telling them not to be in a hurry to take action. All they had to do was to surround the Lu Ming trio. He had a plan to cause internal strife among the Lu Ming trio. No, our common enemy is them, Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng. Yi Immortal pointed at Lu Ming. Ridiculous! Zi Xian sneered with a hint of mockery. He was trying to sow discord between them. That was too low level. You don't know Lu Ming's background, do you? You don't know the origin of the forbidden power, do you? If you knew, you wouldn't find it ridiculous. Do you know why the forbidden body is the mortal enemy of the heavenly human race? Yi Immortal said. But Zi Xian couldn't help asking. He was not the only one. Gu Changfeng and Lu Ming were also curious. They also wanted to know why the forbidden body was the mortal enemy of the heavenly human race. The forbidden bodies and the heavenly human race's mortal enemy. Therefore, in history, the forbidden body and the heavenly human race. The life spirit was the master of the heavenly court, the master of the primordial divine court, the taboo sword ancestor, and the immeasurable heavenly demon. That's because the taboo power is actually the power of the cosmos. It's a power that the cosmos created in order to protect itself. As the leader of the demon royal family, you should know very well that you demons and us heavenly humans are not creatures of this universe. In this universe, we will be suppressed by it. The stronger the forbidden body is, the stronger the suppression of the heavenly human race will be. Conversely, the suppression of the heavenly human race will be weaker. As a result, if we want to develop, we need to get rid of the forbidden body. Otherwise, the more powerful the forbidden body becomes, the weaker its suppression on us becomes. It'll become more and more difficult for us to cultivate, and it'll become more and more difficult for us to break through. In particular, the suppression will become even stronger once we reach reciprocity, which will drastically reduce our battle prowess. So, do you think Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng are our common enemies? Yi Immortal explained. What? Yi Immortal's words were like a clap of thunder that exploded in Lu Ming's heart. The forbidden body was the power of the heavenly human race. It was the first time he had heard of it. Also, the heavenly human race and the demons were not creatures of this universe. What did that mean? Were there other universes other than this one? The forbidden body is the power of the heavenly human race. How is that possible? Zi Xian murmured to herself. Her face was filled with shock and doubt. At the sight of Zi Xian's expression, Lu Ming was certain that at least a part of what Yi Wuxia said was true. Demons were really not living creatures of this universe. At the same time, countless thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. The heavenly human race was extremely talented, surpassing the other races in the universe. They were almost invincible in a battle of the same level. Of course, this referred to the other races in the universe, except for the creatures of the forbidden body. However, after reaching the origin realm, the heavenly human race's origin realm was much weaker. They seemed to be weaker than the other races in the universe. The Heaven Destroyer's origin realm and the heavenly human race's origin realm had clashed more than once. Lu Ming did not understand before, but he did now. If what Yi Immortal said was true, then everything made sense. The heavenly human race was not creatures of this universe and was suppressed by this universe. So, this little girl isn't from this universe. Then she's on the same side as us. Little girl, let's attack together. Let's destroy these two taboo bodies. We don't want them to grow and suppress us even more. Yuan Wuji said. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng's eyes narrowed. What did he mean? Did Yuan Wuji mean that the Yuanguang race, the malevolent Yin race, and the Cangming race were not creatures of this universe? However, didn't the creatures of the forbidden body already exist in the untainted continent in the last era? How did they become creatures of this universe? How many secrets were hidden in this universe? I don't believe you. You are just trying to sow discord. Zi Xian shook her head. Zi Xian, everything I said is true. If I lie, then I will never be able to transcend and become an immortal. You better think carefully. Letting them grow is not your problem alone. It will be a disaster for the fiend demon race. You demons will be suppressed more and more in the future, and it will be harder for you to cultivate. Sooner or later, your race will be wiped out. Yi Immortal said. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng looked at each other and took a step back secretly to put some distance between them and Zixian. They were also prepared to defend themselves. If what Yi Immortal said was true, then they were indeed enemies with Zixian. Moreover, Zixian looked like she was struggling. Clearly, she believed him. Although Yi Immortal's words were not an oath, they were more believable. If he swore on his life origin, it would be even more unbelievable. With Yi Immortal's strength, even if he had not reached the origin realm, he would probably be able to resist the backlash of swearing on his life origin. Yi Immortal did not swear on his life origin. He only said that he would never be able to transcend and become an immortal. Ordinary people would not dare to say something like that. Although it was not an oath, it was better than an oath. This was because there was a feeling in the unseen world, especially when it was related to transcendence and the immortal Tao. If he said something like that, it might come true. Those who wanted to become an immortal would not dare to say something like that. Chapter 49:23. There was an 80 to 90% chance that this was true. Seeing Zixian's expression, a trace of a smile appeared at the corners of Yi Wuxia's mouth. As long as Zixian attacked together, or rather, Zixian did not even have to attack. As long as Zixian watched from the sidelines, the five of them were confident that they could take down Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng. Senior Gu Changfeng, get ready to break out. Lu Ming sent a telepathic message to Gu Changfeng. He planned to break out from the side while Zixian was still hesitating. Although the chances were slim, they had to give it a try. If they really could not do it, it would not be too late to enter the ancient wasteland ring. Lu Ming, Gu Changfeng, break out from the encirclement towards Yi Immortal. Let's attack together. At this moment, Zixian's voice rang out in Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng's ears. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng did not show it on their faces, but they were stunned. Did Zixian not believe Yi Immortal's words? Lu Ming, no matter what, you have saved me and the demon clan. I, Zixian, am very clear about gratitude and grudges. This time, no matter what, I will help you. We can talk about the future in the future. Zixian's voice continued to ring out in their ears, but she still had a conflicted expression on her face. Clearly, Zixian's expression was faked. It was used to confuse Yi Wuxia and the rest. Okay, let's charge towards Yi Immortal. Lu Ming replied. He knew Zixian very well. Since she had said so, she would not trick him. Yi Immortal, Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Gaishak, and Lord of the Abyss were all surrounding Lu Ming and the other two, but their positions were very interesting. Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji were closer to each other, while Gaishak and Lord of the Abyss were closer to each other. As for Yi Wuxia, there was a certain distance between him and the other four. It was obvious that Yi Immortal was also guarding against Gaishak, Yuan Wuji, and the others. Their cooperation wasn't as solid as a block of iron. If he were to charge in any other direction, he might have to face two experts. However, if he were to charge in the direction of the Yi Immortal, he would only have to face one Yi Immortal. Charge! The next moment, Lu Ming and the other two made their move. Like lightning, they charged towards Yi Immortal. How dare you lie to me? Stop them. Yi Immortal was, after all, an old man who had lived for a long time. His reaction was astonishingly fast. The moment Lu Ming and the others moved, he knew that Zixian's previous expression was all an act to confuse them. She would still join forces with Lu Ming. Sword light exploded as Yi Immortal used a Genesis technique. A star appeared and pressed down on Lu Ming and the others. Crimson Immortal Light. Black Moon Immortal Light. Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Gaishak, and Infernal Fiend King also made their moves. Each of them unleashed their ultimate moves and charged towards Lu Ming's group. Bright Moon Wind Fist. Gu Changfeng swung his fist, causing the void to explode. Fist force burst forth and swept towards Yi Immortal with earth-shattering force. Absolute Demon Wall. Zixian's pair of demon wings glowed. Runes filled the air and formed a demon wall in front of Gaishak and the Infernal Fiend King. There was only one pair of demon wings. Hence, Zixian could only form 2 demon walls at a time. The absolute demon wall was a secret technique that Zixian had evolved from fusing with the ancestral demon blood crystal. It was extremely powerful. Although it was not a Genesis technique, it was comparable to one. At the same time, Lu Ming used the Primal Desolation form and the Sky Splitter form. The Primal Desolation form formed a continent that smashed towards Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. Meanwhile, he merged with the Battle God Spear and used the Sky Splitter form. He transformed into a dazzling spear light that pierced towards Yi Immortal. This was equivalent to Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng joining forces to attack Yi Immortal. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng attacked with all their strength. Their individual attacks were not weaker than Yi Immortal's. The 2 of them joined forces and easily destroyed Yi Immortal's Genesis techniques. Berserk power continued to surge towards Yi Immortal. Yi Immortal's body shook violently as he involuntarily retreated. Swish, swish, swish. Lu Ming, Gu Changfeng, and Zixian charged out of the encirclement like 3 bolts of lightning. Gaishak and the Infernal Fiend King were blocked by the absolute demon wall. Although Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji had defeated Lu Ming's Primal Desolation form, they were still 1 step too late. Kill! Lu Ming roared as the God of Battle Spear swept towards Yi Immortal. They had charged out of the encirclement, but they were charging in the same direction as Yi Immortal. They were very close to each other and Lu Ming naturally would not let go of this opportunity to attack. If possible, he wanted to kill Yi Immortal immediately. Yi Immortal was extremely talented and intelligent. He had limitless potential and was many times more dangerous than Yi Qiuxian. It was best to get rid of him as soon as possible. Boom! Gu Changfeng also knew how to attack. He threw a punch. Yi Immortal could not completely block the combined attacks of 2 top experts. He barely managed to block Gu Changfeng's attack, but he could not block Lu Ming's attack. The God of Battle Spear struck Yi Immortal with a clang. Yi Immortal's body was sent flying like a cannonball. However, he was wearing a top-level origin-level armor and could not be killed so easily. He was only severely injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. Oh no, Lu Ming and the others are escaping. Prince Kanglo, who was on a mountain in the distance, turned pale. He did not take action because he wanted to sit on the sidelines and watch the tigers fight. He wanted to let Lu Ming and the others fight to the death. Initially, he thought that Lu Ming would definitely die. Therefore, he did not take action. They did not want to see Lu Ming escape. Now that Lu Ming had broken out of the encirclement and was about to escape, they could not sit still anymore. Prince Kanglo and the other prince turned into 2 streaks of light and charged towards Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming, this is all I can do for you. You will have to rely on yourself from now on. Princess Zhang Xian whispered. Then, there was a flash of light and she disappeared. 2 more experts from the Zhang Ming tribe are here. Lu Ming's expression changed. He wanted to continue attacking Yi Immortal and take this opportunity to get rid of him. However, there was no time left. Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Gaishak, and Lord of the Underworld were charging towards him. Together with the 2 experts from the Zhang Ming tribe, he would not be able to escape if he was surrounded again. Not to mention, the creatures of the 3 Forbidden Grounds had many terrifying combined formations. Previously, these combined formations were far away and they felt that the invincible Divine Masters were more than enough to deal with Lu Ming. Therefore, they did not come in time. Now, they were rushing over with all their might and could not afford any delay. Let's go! Lu Ming and the other 2 did not continue attacking Yi Immortal. Instead, they dashed into the distance like 3 streaks of lightning. Go after them. Don't even think about escaping. Yuan Wuji and Gaishak roared as they chased after Lu Ming and the others. The Primordial Light tribe and the Evil Yin tribe were good at speed. The 4 of them were astonishingly fast and they gradually closed the distance between them and Lu Ming and the others. In fact, Lu Ming was not slow. However, Zixian was even faster. She flapped her ancient demon wings and traveled thousands of miles in an instant. She was even faster than Lu Ming. However, Gu Changfeng was slightly slower. Therefore, the distance between them and Yuan Wuji and the others was closing. Chapter 49-24. Senior Gu Changfeng, please enter my ancient desolation ring. Lu Ming sent a message to Gu Changfeng and opened the ancient desolation ring to let Gu Changfeng enter. After Gu Changfeng entered the ancient desolation ring, Lu Ming and Zi Xian were able to fly at full speed. They were not any slower than Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. As for the two experts of the Tsang Ming tribe in the combined formation, they could not catch up. Soon, they were left far behind until they could no longer be seen. Only Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Gaishak, and Lord of the Underworld were still following Lu Ming and Zi Xian. They were too fast. After a while, they flew out of the island and arrived at the sea. Purple Heaven Grotto had been severely damaged. The ground had cracked and seawater was pouring in. Huge waves were surging. Damn it! Yuan Wuji, Gaishak, and the others roared furiously. However, they could not catch up with Lu Ming and the others. They did not want to chase anymore. They might not be able to catch up even if they continued. Moreover, there were only 4 of them and 3 of Lu Ming's group. Even if they caught up with Lu Ming and the others, they could not do anything to them. Instead of wasting time, they might as well go back and plunder resources. After all, the most important goal of the 3 Forbidden Grounds was to plunder resources and awaken more of their people. Forget it. I'll let them go this time. Yuan Wuji was the first to stop. Once Yuan Wuji stopped, Yuan Liuji, the King of Spectre, and the King of Nether Demons stopped as well. They watched Lu Ming and Zi Xian disappear before their eyes. They had no choice but to return. When they saw Prince Kanglo and Zi Xian, they naturally questioned them about why they did not help them earlier. Naturally, Prince Tsang Luo and Prince Tsang Luo found a random excuse. Lu Ming and Zi Xian got rid of Yuan Wuji and the others and stopped on the sea. With a wave of his hand, Gu Changfeng appeared from the ancient desolation ring. Thank you for your help this time. Lu Ming cupped his fists in gratitude. Lu Ming, you don't have to thank me. Back then, you saved the demon race, so I have to repay my debt. This is my way of repaying you. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Zi Xian said. She looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Miss Zi Xian, are we really going to become enemies? Lu Ming frowned slightly. If it was just me, I wouldn't care. However, this concerns the fate of the demon race. I can't ignore it. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to them. Zi Xian sighed. Lu Ming had a taboo body, and the power he controlled was the power of the universe. The stronger he was, the greater the suppression he would have on the abyssals. The cultivation of the abyssal race would become increasingly difficult, and in the end, it would be difficult for them to make any breakthroughs. If this continued, sooner or later, they would be destroyed. If other demons knew about this, even though Lu Ming had helped them before, he would probably become their enemy. After all, this was not a personal grudge, but a matter that concerned the survival of their race. Lu Ming could understand Zi Xian's thoughts. Furthermore, Zi Xian had now merged with the ancestral demon blood crystal and represented the hope of the demon race. I can only try my best not to be your enemy, but no one can predict what the future will be like. See you again. Goodbye. Zi Xian cupped her fists and flapped her demon wings. She was already far away. Lu Ming, it was a good time to get rid of Zi Xian just now. After all, she has merged with the ancestral demon blood crystal and has endless potential. I'm afraid she will be our greatest enemy in the future. Gu Changfeng said. Senior Gu, Zi Xian has just helped me, and you want me to attack her now? This is definitely not something I can do. Don't mention this again in the future. Lu Ming said in a deep voice, looking somewhat displeased. He had his principles. Although he and Zi Xian could not be considered as friends, before this, they were not considered as enemies either. Furthermore, Zi Xian had just helped him out of danger. How could he turn hostile and attack her immediately? Even if they were to become enemies in the future, they would meet on the battlefield. Lu Ming, don't be angry. I was just testing you. You are indeed a good person who can distinguish between kindness and hatred. I like you. Gu Changfeng laughed heartily and patted Lu Ming on the shoulder. Is Heaven Destroyer destined to be the enemy of the demons? Lu Ming sighed and couldn't help but think of the future that the Forbidden Sword ancestor, Tang Feng, had seen. Tang Feng had seen that Heaven Destroyer would have a great battle with the demons in the future. In the beginning, the demons were controlled by the heavenly human race with the ancestral demon insect and besieged the Heaven Destroyer's base. At that time, Lu Ming thought that was the future that Tang Feng had seen. But later, Lu Ming sneaked into the dark universe and helped the demons get the ancestral demon blood crystal and get rid of the ancestral demon insect. They fought against the heavenly human race together, and Heaven Destroyer and the demons became allies. Lu Ming thought that the future that Tang Feng saw was wrong, or that he didn't see that far. But now, it seemed that Tang Feng had seen even further. After going around in circles, Heaven Destroyer and the demons were still going to become enemies in the end? It was because of him, and it was also because of him that they separated. The world was really strange. After all, Lu Ming was someone who had been through a lot. He adjusted his mood very quickly. "Senior Gu, how did you and Zi Xian come here and find me?" Lu Ming asked curiously. Even if Gu Changfeng and Zi Xian came to the Purple Heaven Immortal Kingdom, how did they know about his whereabouts? Lu Ming didn't believe that it was such a coincidence that Gu Changfeng and Zi Xian happened to see him being besieged by Yi Immortal and the others. Also, Yi Immortal took out a dozen heads of Heaven Destroyer's men. "Did you meet the Yi Immortal? Where are the others? How are they now?" Before Gu Changfeng answered, Lu Ming asked a few more questions. More importantly, he had been keeping these questions in his heart for a long time, and he couldn't help but ask them all at once. "Ah, look at how anxious you are. Don't worry, most of them are fine. Let me tell you in detail." Gu Changfeng smiled and told him everything that had happened in the past 2 years. It turned out that 2 years ago, Heaven Destroyer and the demons had been hiding near the realm aura with the 4 statues. After Lu Ming and the others left, they had been hiding there. A few months had passed just like that. Lion and the others guessed that the creatures in the realm aura should have left, and they sent people to investigate. But they didn't expect to attract the Yi Immortal. Yi Immortal arrived and killed hundreds of Heaven Destroyer and the demons. With Yi Immortal's combat strength, Heaven Destroyer and the demons were no match for Heaven Destroyer and the demons. If this continued, they would really be wiped out. At the critical moment, Zi Xian successfully merged with the demon ancestor blood crystal, and her combat strength increased tremendously. With the help of the demon ancestor blood crystal, she defeated Yi Immortal. After that, the two sides quickly moved to another place to hide. After Yi Immortal was defeated, he left the realm aura not long after. No one knew if he was afraid of Zi Xian's combat strength or if he had something else to do. A few months later, there was almost no one in the realm aura. The heavenly human tribe, quasi-immortal tribe, and the creatures in the realm aura had all left. Heaven Destroyer and the demons successfully found the 4 statues and started to comprehend them according to Lu Ming and the others. Chapter 49-25. Gu Changfeng continued to talk about their experiences during this period of time. Heaven Destroyer and Fiend found the 4 statues and began to comprehend them. They had heard from Lu Ming, Dandan, and the others how mysterious the statues were, so they were naturally looking forward to it. But after comprehending them, they found that Fiend couldn't comprehend them at all. To be more precise, Fiend was under the statues, but the statues didn't react at all. No matter what method they used, there was no reaction. But Heaven Destroyer's people comprehended under the statues, and the statues reacted. There were many different races in the Heaven Exterminating Army. The human race, the Heavenly Earth race, the Heavenly Heart race, the Primordial Divine Spirit race, and so on. But no matter what race they were, the statues would react, and they could all obtain heaven-defying fortunes under the statues. They couldn't figure it out no matter how hard they racked their brains. In the end, Fiend voluntarily gave up, and Heaven Destroyer's people continued to comprehend. In the past 2 years, Heaven Destroyer's people had made great gains. Those with lower cultivations and weaker talents were able to improve their secret skills by leaps and bounds. As a result, their battle prowess had also improved significantly. Those with great talent had made even greater gains. Some people's secret arts had not only improved tremendously, but their power had also reached a new level, and they had even grasped the outline of Genesis arts. Even though it was just an outline, if word got out, who knew how many people would go crazy with envy? Once one grasped the outline of a Genesis art, It meant that one had taken half a step into the door of Genesis arts. Once one broke through to the origin realm in the future, comprehending Genesis arts would be 10 times or even 100 times easier. It should be said that many origin realm existences hadn't comprehended Genesis arts, and they were still struggling in the process of comprehending Genesis arts. Of course, the outline of a Genesis art couldn't be comprehended so easily. Those who could comprehend the outline were all top figures, such as Lion, Tang Jian, Rong Jin, Divine Lord Meng Su, and the others. They were all extremely talented figures who had been at the peak of the Divine Lord realm for a long time. Gu Changfeng, in particular, had comprehended a Genesis art in one go, which made his peak battle prowess soar. Once he used a Genesis art, he would be comparable to an invincible Divine Lord. This enlightenment had greatly increased the overall strength of the Heaven Destroyer. The demons could only be envious. At this moment, the entire Purple Heaven Wonderland was collapsing even more. Everywhere, the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. It was a scene of doomsday. If this continued, it would be very dangerous. Therefore, the Heaven Destroyer and the demons arranged for some of the weaker cultivators to take the crossing flying ship and leave Purple Heaven Cave first. Some of the stronger ones continued to stay in the Purple Heaven Cave to search for treasures. At the same time, Gu Changfeng, Lion, Tang Jian, Rong Jin, and Zi Xian were heading towards the Zi Shao Immortal Kingdom. Firstly, they wanted to try their luck in the Zi Shao Immortal Kingdom. Secondly, they wanted to see how Lu Ming and the others were doing. However, before they reached the Zi Shao Immortal Kingdom, they met Bubble halfway. Through Bubble, they learned about the current situation in the Zi Shao Immortal Kingdom. They followed Bubble and found the place where Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and Dandan were staying. Through Dandan and the others, they learned about the battle between Lu Ming and Yi Immortal. Because they were worried about Lu Ming's safety, Gu Changfeng and Zi Xian hurried over. Lu Ming knew everything that happened after that. I see. Elder Gu and the others met Bubble halfway. No wonder they could arrive so quickly and find me so accurately. Lu Ming had been puzzled. Even if Bubble had rushed back to find Gu Changfeng and the others, it should not have been so fast. It turned out that they had met halfway. At the same time, Lu Ming was relieved. Heaven Destroyer's losses were not that great. Although Yi Immortal had killed many people, some important people were still alive. Let's go back and find them, lest they worry, Lu Ming said. He immediately returned with Gu Changfeng and saw Xian Yanqing, Dandan, and the others. Seeing that Lu Ming had returned, Xian Yanqing and the others were naturally overjoyed. When they learned about Zi Xian, they all sighed. Over the years, they had cooperated with the demons and had become a force. The two sides could only gain a foothold in the universe ruins if they worked together. After parting ways with the demons, their strength would be greatly reduced and the situation would be even more difficult in the future. They had to obtain more resources in the Zi Shao Grotto Heaven to increase the strength of the Heaven Destroyer so that it would not be destroyed by other forces. They needed chaos gems, divine medicines, and divine weapons. Most importantly, they needed the carrier of the combined attack array. With the carrier of the combined attack array, normal divine masters could make use of their advantage in numbers and defeat the stronger ones. Senior Lion, you're just in time. You can set up the combined attack array with Shao Qing and Dandan, Lu Ming said. The combined attack array in their hands needed 12 people to set it up perfectly. After all, it was a 12-person combined attack array. There were only 10 people including Lu Ming before, so it was impossible for them to make use of the true power of the combined attack array. They had always felt that the joint attack formation was no small matter. Although it was only a 12-person combined attack array, it was extremely mysterious. Once it was used perfectly, it would definitely be more powerful than other combined attack arrays. However, it would be a waste for Lu Ming to set up the combined attack array. Lu Ming already had the power of an invincible divine master, so it would be a waste for him to set up the combined attack array. He wouldn't be able to make use of his advantages. It was the same for Gu Changfeng. When he used Genesis techniques, his power was comparable to an invincible divine master. However, when setting up the combined attack array, using Genesis techniques wouldn't increase the power of the combined attack array. Instead, it would disrupt the balance of the combined attack array. Besides them, there were also Xian Yinqing, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Dandan, Bubbles, Wan Xin, Tang Jun, Qiuqiu, and Guimo. There were a total of 9 people. In addition to Lion, Tang Jian, and Rong Jin, there were 12 people. They could set up a perfect combined attack array. Lion, Tang Jian, and Rong Jin naturally wouldn't refuse. Although Lion had the power of the strongest Lord of Heaven, Tang Jian and Rong Jin also had the power of the top Lord of Heaven. They could be considered experts below the origin level. However, in the current situation, facing the creatures of the Forbidden Grounds, this little bit of power was clearly not enough. Only by setting up the combined attack array would they be qualified to compete with the experts of the Forbidden Grounds. Only then would they be able to play a role in the later battles. In fact, there was another expert in the Heaven Destroyer who was comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. He was Tiger, who was as famous as Lion. When the 20 strongest Lord of Heaven of the Heavenly Human Clan attacked the Heaven Destroyer base, Tiger had helped. However, Tiger had been injured and hadn't recovered. After the battle, he went back to sleep to recover. This time, he didn't enter the Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven. Lu Ming, what about you? What's your plan next? Dandan asked Lu Ming. The creatures of the 3 Forbidden Grounds and the Yi Immortal joined forces to kill me. How can I let this matter go? Lu Ming grinned, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth. His eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. I knew you wouldn't let this matter go. Tell me, what are you going to do? Dandan laughed. Chapter 49-26. The goal of the 3 Forbidden Lands is to obtain more resources and awaken more of their people. Therefore, they can't continue to work together. They will probably split up soon. When the time comes, Senior Gu and I will hunt down the people who are setting up the formation so that they won't be able to set up the formation. Lu Ming said. Then he looked at Bubbles and said, Bubbles, I'll have to trouble you to investigate the movements of the 3 Forbidden Lands living beings. No problem, leave it to me. Bubble patted her small chest, and with a sway of her body, she disappeared from where she stood. Meanwhile, Dandan began to instruct Lion, Tang Jian, and Rong Jin to comprehend the formation of the formation. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others had already memorized the formation on the formation carrier, so there was no need for them to comprehend it. Lion, Tang Jian, and Rong Jin first needed to completely comprehend the runic formations in their respective carriers before they could work together with others to set up the formations and polish their tacit understanding and cooperation. Time passed quickly and more than 10 days passed. Lion, Tang Jian, and Rong Jin had more or less finished comprehending when Bubble returned. At first, the 3 Forbidden Lands living beings worked together to search for Big Brother Lu Ming. However, in the past 2 days, they have split up and each occupied a meridian. Moreover, they have sent their experts into the meridian. I believe that they have entered the meridian to investigate. Bubbles recounted what she had seen and heard over the past few days. With Bubbles' control of space-time, she could hide in the dark and observe. As long as her origin did not appear, no one would be able to discover her. Invincible divine masters were only powerful in battle. Their spiritual senses were definitely not comparable to a true origin. It seems that the living beings of the 3 Forbidden Lands can't wait any longer and want to enter the meridian to seize the treasure. Lu Ming muttered. In fact, the heavenly abode divine light emitted from the meridian was not very strong recently. Not to mention invincible divine masters, even royal ambassadors would be able to block it and enter the meridian. However, the various factions still did not dare to enter, mainly because they were afraid that there would be heavenly abode divine beasts inside. The strength of the heavenly abode was too terrifying. Even the invincible divine masters could not withstand it. But now, the beings of the 3 great forbidden grounds could not wait any longer. They sent out a small number of experts to explore the Qi Meridian. If there were really heavenly abode beasts, the losses would be minimal. If there were none, they could enter the Qi Meridian to seize the resources. Lu Ming, do you want to fight? Gu Changfeng said with a murderous look in his eyes. Of course. Bubble, take us there. Lu Ming said. In order to silently kill the creatures of the forbidden area and the people who set up the joint attack formation, they still needed Bubble's space-time power. If it were just Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng, they would have been discovered by the other party before they even got close. Although doing so would delay Bubble's run-in with the others, there was no better choice. However, it wasn't too bad that Bubble was one less person. Bubble was already very familiar with this joint attack formation. As long as the other 11 succeeded in breaking in, Bubble would join in later and the breaking in speed would be very fast. Immediately, the three of them set off while the others continued to practice the joint attack formation. Let's go to the place where the Primordial Light Clan is located. It's closest to us, Bubble said. Soon they arrived. The Primordial Light Clan occupied a Qi Meridian and there were a few thousand of them scattered around the Qi Meridian. Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji were guarding the two sides and glancing around. Lu Ming, do you know that those people set up the joint attack formation? Gu Changfeng asked. Roughly. Lu Ming nodded and said. Lu Ming might not know about those who set up the joint attack formation of 7, 9, or 12 people. But Lu Ming knew all about those who set up the joint attack formation of 21 or 18 people. When Lu Ming had agreed to fight with Yi Immortal, the creatures of the three great forbidden grounds had already set up the most terrifying joint attack formation to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming's memory was amazing. He only glanced at it and remembered the appearance and the life origin energy of those who set up the formation. Now it came in handy. Those, Lu Ming pointed out the members of the Primordial Light Clan who set up the joint attack formation of 21 or 18 people to Bubbles and Gu Changfeng. Then, they approached the Primordial Light Clan. Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji didn't notice them because they were covered by the power of time and space. However, Bubble's cultivation was limited after all. If she was too close to Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji, they would definitely notice her. However, Lu Ming's target wasn't Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. Lu Ming bellowed in a low voice and immediately made his move. The war god's spear suddenly pierced out. This was performed by using the heaven-splitting move. Its power was shocking as it charged toward the few experts from the Primordial Light Clan. At the same time, Gu Changfeng also attacked. He threw out the bright moon long wind fist and a terrifying fist aura blasted towards the Primordial Light Clan. Lu Ming, be careful. As soon as Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng attacked, Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji discovered them. The two of them roared angrily and pounced on Lu Ming. However, it was too late. Three elites of the Primordial Light Clan were pierced by the spear radiance and killed. Forbidden power swept out and swept the three swords into the ancient desolation ring. These three swords were the carriers of the joint attack formation of 21 people. Without these three swords, the joint attack formation of 21 people was as good as useless. Gu Changfeng's fist aura was even more overbearing. It blasted down and killed 5 people in an instant. More than 10 people were seriously injured and sent flying. Of course, not all of them were the ones who had set up the joint attack formation. Only 3 of them were. The rest were hit by the fist aura. The carriers of the joint attack formation of the 3 people were also taken away by Gu Changfeng. Retreat. After the successful attack, Lu Ming and the others quickly retreated under the cover of the power of time and space, causing Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji's attacks to miss. It's the power of time and space. Lu Ming, you are courting death. Yuan Wuji roared as if he had gone crazy. Thousands of light beams shot out and filled the void. It was a shocking scene. However, Lu Ming and the others dodged easily and did not confront Yuan Wuji directly. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng were not afraid of Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. However, there was no need to do so because their combat strength was on par with each other. Even if they fought, it would be difficult to determine the winner in a short time, let alone kill each other. Hence, it was better to avoid fighting. Lu Ming and the others' target was not Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji, but the other members of the Primordial Light Clan. Swoosh, Lu Ming and the others kept flashing and appearing in another direction before continuing to attack. This time, Lu Ming used the ancient desolation style. A piece of land with a radius of 10 miles was formed and pressed down on the Primordial Light Clan, attacking them indiscriminately. The ancient desolation style formed a real ancient desolation continent. On the continent, there were rays of light and mountains and lakes could be seen clearly. It carried the mighty power of the world as it pressed down. Suddenly, dozens of primordial light clan members were turned into ashes. Chapter 49-27. Lu Ming had used the desolation move to kill dozens of primordial light tribe members. Although only a few of them had set up a 21-man or 18-man formation, it was still enough. If they wanted to break the enemy's formation, they only needed to kill a few of them and snatch the carrier of the formation. That would be enough. When Lu Ming made his move, Gu Changfeng also made his move. He used the bright moon wind fist to kill more than 10 primordial light tribe members. After that, the two of them retreated quickly. Lu Ming, come out and fight me if you dare. Why are you acting so sneakily? Yuan Liuji shouted angrily. Gather together and set up the formation. Set up the formation. Yuan Liuji shouted and appeared above the heads of the other primordial light tribe members to prevent Lu Ming and the others from launching a sneak attack. The primordial light tribe members quickly gathered together and set up a joint attack array formation. 7-man joint attack formation, 9-man joint attack formation, 12-man joint attack formation. There were even 21-man formation. However, there was only one formation left of the 20-man joint attack. Originally, the Primordial Light Clan had 4 21-man combined array formations. However, Lu Ming and the rest launched 2 sneak attacks and killed some of the people who had set up 3 of the 21-man combined array formations, snatching away the carriers of the combined array formations. This meant that the 3 21-man joint attack formations were now useless. Damn it! Damn it! Yuan Liuji shouted angrily, his face distorted. He was furious. He was really furious. He could not wait to fight with Lu Ming. However, the void was very quiet. Lu Ming and the others were nowhere to be seen. This was because Lu Ming and the others had already left. The other party had made strict preparations. It would be very difficult to launch a sneak attack. They have probably left to attack the malevolent Yin tribe or the Blue Sea tribe. Lu Ming is taking revenge on us. Should we inform the malevolent Yin tribe or the Blue Sea tribe? Yuan Liuji asked. Although they had said this, they did not dare to relax. They were on high alert. Why should we inform them? We've lost so many of our 21-man joint attack formations. Our overall strength is no longer as strong as the Dark Yin race and the Blue Sea race. We have to make them suffer, Yuan Wuji said with a cold glint in his eyes. In the end, the races of the 3 Forbidden Lands were in a competitive relationship. They weren't having a good time, so they naturally didn't want others to have a good time. Lu Ming's second target was the Baleful Yin race. The Baleful Yin race members also gathered around a chi vein. The Baleful Yin race and the others were much more guarded than the Primordial Light race. After all, the Baleful Yin race had already suffered greatly at the hands of Lu Ming and Bubbles last time. Gaishak and Nether Fiend King did not dare to be careless. However, in the end, Lu Ming and the others still found a chance to strike. They killed dozens of Baleful Yin beings and destroyed several of their combined attack formations. Then they quickly left. According to the plan, the next step was to find the CC race. However, Lu Ming decided not to go in the end. Princess Zhang Xian of the CC race had always helped him. He still owed Princess Zhang Xian a favor. Moreover, the CC race members had not attacked Lu Ming at the beginning. Speaking of which, the CC race and Lu Ming did not have a deep grudge. Lu Ming clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. He did not want to fight for the time being. Of course, if the CC race ended up like the Baleful Yin race and the Primordial Light race in the future, Lu Ming would definitely not be polite. Let's go. Let's return to the Primordial Light race, Lu Ming said. This was just the beginning. Lu Ming would not let it go so easily. The Primordial Light race members were still on full alert. They did not have a chance to strike yet. However, they were not in a hurry. They hid in the dark and waited for an opportunity. Time passed day by day. A few days later, Lu Ming and the others saw the Primordial Light race members coming out of the Chi vein. The person who had entered the Chi vein to investigate had to be a powerhouse on the same level as the Guangxin royal envoy. After coming out, he reported something to Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji. Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji were delighted when they heard this. Could there be no paradise divine beasts below the Qi vein? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat when he saw the expressions on Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji's faces. Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji seemed to be in a discussion. After a while, more than a dozen figures headed down to the Qi vein. The others continued to stay above the Qi vein. Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji did not go down either. Clearly, they did not dare go down. They wanted to stay above to guard against Lu Ming and the others. In the blink of an eye, a few more days passed. The primordial light race members finally let down their guard. Lu Ming and the others did not appear again. Furthermore, the combined formation of the primordial light race could not be set up and operated continuously. Setting up a combined formation consumed a lot of energy. During this period of time, the primordial light tribe's joint attack formation had been set up. However, it was also very tiring and consumed a lot of the people setting up the formation. Once they let down their guard, Lu Ming and the others immediately attacked and killed dozens of primordial light race members in an instant. This made Yuan Wuji and Yuan Liuji go crazy. They roared angrily and attacked the void frantically. However, Lu Ming and the others quickly retreated and went to the malevolent Yin race. They found an opportunity to launch another wave of attacks and kill dozens of malevolent Yin race members. The members of the two races were about to go crazy. They gathered together and did not dare relax. Lu Ming and the others waited for a few more days before they realized that the malevolent Yin race, the primordial light race, and the blue sea race had joined forces again. They gathered above a Qi vein and reached some sort of agreement. They sent people into the Qi vein to excavate resources while the invincible Almighty stood guard above. "Let's go back," Lu Ming said. There were 6 invincible Almighties among the creatures of the 3 forbidden lands. They did not have a chance to attack. Once they were trapped, they would be in danger. They went back. "Bubbles, did you find any trace of Yi Immortal a while ago?" Lu Ming asked on the way. If they had found Yi Immortal, now would be the best time to attack. He and Gu Changfeng might be able to kill Yi Immortal if they joined forces. Even if they could not, they could severely injure him. "No, this guy seems to have disappeared without a trace. I think he's hiding somewhere," Bubbles said. "This guy is not easy to deal with." Lu Ming sighed. He was not too disappointed. Yi Immortal was not easy to deal with. Not long after, they returned. Bubbles joined Dandan and the others to practice the formation. 12 silhouettes flashed, and a huge figure condensed into one. The figure was covered in a black and ferocious battle armor. The spikes on the armor were extremely sharp, and the aura it emitted was extremely cold. It was a pitch-black halberd with a sharp edge. Its entire body was filled with a terrifying aura. Indeed, the aura of a formation formed by 12 people is completely different. It's much stronger than a formation formed by 10 people. This joint attack formation is indeed extraordinary, Lu Ming thought to himself. Chapter 49-28. The carrier of the combined attack array was found under a small Qi meridian. The Qi meridian was not big and there were no buildings on it. It was obvious that no one lived there in the last era. However, there was a dwelling beneath such a small vein of Qi. It was concealed by a formation and was extremely well hidden. If it were not for the collapse of the Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven and Dandan's extremely sensitive perception of formations, they probably would not have discovered it. Lu Ming and the others had obtained 2 things from the cave residents. One was the combined attack array of 12 people, and the other was a book. Lu Ming and the others did not recognize the words on it. They had judged that it was from the last era. However, when Lion translated those scrolls previously, Lu Ming conveniently passed this book to Lion so that it could translate the content in the book. However, Lu Ming was disappointed. Lion did not recognize the words on it either. Lion speculated that the words on it were either very obscure words from the last era or not from the last era. Lu Ming could only keep it and slowly explore the contents in the future. He vaguely felt that this book was extraordinary. The carrier of the combined attack array that was placed together with this book could not be ordinary. It was indeed very powerful. However, Lu Ming could see that the black-armored warrior was not very solid yet. This was because Lion, Tang Jian, and Rong Jin did not have a good rapport with the others. They needed to continue working together. The 12 of them continued to work on the array formation. Only Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng were free. By the way, Senior Gu, I would like to ask you something. When a forbidden body reaches the 9th level Divine Master Realm, does the universal bridge formed end at the cosmic sea or does it continue to extend? Lu Ming began to ask about the universal bridge. His universal bridge, which was the yellow mud road, continued to extend after it reached the cosmic sea. It was blocked by a layer of barrier. He wanted to continue to look but could not do so. He had known for a long time that other cultivators were not like this. However, he was not sure if it was the same for other forbidden bodies. He had wanted to ask Gu Changfeng for advice. Now that he was free, he naturally could not miss it. It continues to extend? Strange. Hearing Lu Ming's explanation, Gu Changfeng was amazed. Senior, are you not? Lu Ming asked. No, my cosmic bridge is no different from the others. As far as I know, the other taboo bodies are the same as mine. I've never heard of a situation like yours. Could it be that the taboo bodies have mutated? Or is it because you have successfully cultivated the 3,000 ancient secret techniques? Gu Changfeng murmured. He could not figure it out either. The other taboo bodies are different from mine. How am I different from the other taboo bodies? Is it really because I comprehended the 3,000 ancient secret techniques? Lu Ming's mind kept spinning. He had a vague feeling that things were not that simple. His cosmic bridge was already different from others when it was first formed. It was a yellow muddy road. On the yellow muddy road, there was a pool of blood. That pool of blood also contained a terrifying power. Twice, it had caused his battle prowess to skyrocket at critical moments. At that time, he had yet to comprehend the 3,000 ancient secret skills. I'll have to ask Senior Fei Huang or Senior Tang Feng in the future. Lu Ming thought and hid the questions he couldn't figure out. Then, Lu Ming asked Gu Changfeng some questions about cultivation. Gu Changfeng's power had already reached the peak of the Divine Master level. If he hadn't been injured and had been in a deep sleep, he would have reached the origin level. So, Gu Changfeng had a lot of ideas about how to reach the peak of the Divine Master level. Lu Ming could also learn from him. 7 days passed quickly. Xian Yanqing, Dandan, Lion, and the rest of the 12 people's joint attack array had finally reached a perfect state. Once they cast it, a ferocious black-armored warrior appeared, exuding a terrifying aura. It was as if the invincible warrior of the previous era had come back to life. Even Lu Ming felt pressured. Once they attacked, their power would definitely be extraordinary. At the same time, Lu Ming asked Bubbles to go out and check the movements of the creatures in the Forbidden Ground. Bubbles left, but soon came back and brought back the movements of the creatures in the Forbidden Ground. The evil Yin race, Yuanguang race, and Songming race were still working together, but they had left the Meridian last time and went to a neighboring one. But this time, the invincible divine masters like Gaishak, Lord of Hell, Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, and Prince Kanglo weren't there. Even the overlords at the level of Lord Guangqian weren't there. However, almost all the masters who had set up the combined attack were there. Gaishak, Yuan Wuji, and the others aren't here. Did they go deep into the Meridian to dig for deity crystals and deity stones? Lu Ming had an idea. If that was the case, it would be another chance to kill the creatures in the Forbidden Ground and break their combined attack. But was it really that simple? Not long ago, the Dark Spectre clan and the Primordial Light clan had already suffered a great loss at Lu Ming's hands. It had only been a few days and these people had already forgotten the pain and were no longer guarding against Lu Ming? Or was there a conspiracy? There's someone outside. Dandan suddenly said and looked to the north. Lu Ming and the others also looked in that direction. A figure was walking through the air in the north. It's her, Princess Song Xian. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The person was Princess Song Xian of the Tsangming race. It's someone from the Tsangming race. She seems to be looking in our direction. Has she discovered us? Myriad gods said. Impossible. I've set up a concealment formation. My concealment formation is silent and doesn't leave any traces. I don't believe anyone below the origin realm can discover it, Dandan said. Dandan said. She was very confident in her array formation. However, Dandan shut up very soon. He was tongue-tied and his eyes were wide open. This was because Princess Songxian had stopped not far away. She was clearly looking at them with a faint smile on her face. Lu Ming, I know there's a concealment formation here. You're inside the formation. There's no need to hide. Show yourself. Princess Songxian said. What? She really discovered us? Dandan was in disbelief. The others' expressions changed as well. Had the creatures from the 3 forbidden grounds arrived? Looks like we've really been discovered. Let's go out and meet her. Lu Ming said. Since they had been discovered, there was no need to continue hiding. Lu Ming and the others stepped out and left the range of the concealment formation. They appeared in the air. Princess Songxian's expression showed that she knew it. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Dandan, Guimo, Shi, and the others scanned the surroundings and released their spiritual senses. They were ready for a battle. Don't worry. I'm the only one here. There's no one else. Princess Songxian smiled. Chapter 49-29. I really want to know, how did you find this place? Lu Ming asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. Although he had cooperated with Princess Songxian once and she had helped him, he was still wary of Princess Songxian. He always felt that Princess Songxian was very mysterious. If she wasn't mysterious, why would the princess of the Zhongming clan cooperate with Lu Ming? Why would she help Lu Ming? According to Yi Wuxia, the living beings of the 3 forbidden lands were not living beings of the primitive universe. Lu Ming had a taboo body and controlled the power of the universe. The stronger one's cultivation was, the greater the suppression of the primitive universe on them. Any creature of the Forbidden Lands would probably want to kill Lu Ming. Why would they cooperate with Lu Ming and help Lu Ming? There were many suspicious points about this. Therefore, Lu Ming didn't dare to take this woman lightly. Of course it's because of this little sister that I found this place. Princess Songxian smiled at Bubbles. Because of me? Bubbles was stunned. Although the power of space-time is profound, and one's movements are soundless, capable of reversing space-time. Unless one's cultivation is much higher than one's, it will be very difficult to discover one's tracks. However, it just so happens that I am extremely sensitive to any kind of energy fluctuation. This is the same for space-time. Not long ago, you were observing the creatures of the 3 great forbidden lands. No one else noticed, but I did. I secretly followed you. Your figure disappeared here. Needless to say, there must be a concealment array here. Princess Songxian explained with a smile. She was always so confident and calm. Her cultivation was clearly only at the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm, but she wasn't afraid at all when facing Lu Ming and so many other experts. This woman is really not simple to be able to detect Bubbles' power of time and space. Fortunately, this woman seems to be different from the other creatures of the Forbidden Lands, otherwise, Lu Ming thought to himself, feeling a little scared. If this woman was like the other creatures of the Forbidden Lands and wanted to kill him, it would be extremely dangerous. Just imagine, if 5 or 6 invincible divine lords, a group of Guangxin imperial emissaries, and a bunch of joint attack formations suddenly appeared and surrounded them, they would be in grave danger. The expressions of the others were also somewhat ugly. Clearly, they had the same thoughts as Lu Ming. What brings you here today? Could it be that you want to raise that condition with me? Lu Ming asked. Princess Songxian shook her head and said, No, I came here today to help you. I believe you already know that the Primordial Light Tribe, the Baleful Een Tribe, and the Blue Sea Tribe have joined forces. Furthermore, the strongest unrivaled divine masters are not here. This is actually a trap to lure you into action. Although the strongest people aren't here, there are source-grade formations set up in the surroundings. Once you make a move, you'll fall into the source-grade formations. Princess Songxian said. An origin-grade formation. Lion, Autumn Moon, and the others' expressions changed drastically. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. He already believed Princess Songxian's words in his heart, because he already felt that the creatures of the 3 forbidden lands were behaving abnormally. If they had set up an origin grade formation and were waiting for him to take the bait, then it would make sense. That's the first problem. Next is the second problem. I want to remind you that the creatures of the 3 Forbidden Lands have sent people to investigate the 9 meridians here. There are no giant beasts condensed from the heavenly divine light below. The 3 tribes have joined forces to plunder the meridians one by one. At the same time, Lu Ming can also take action and plunder the other meridians. Princess Tsong Tian said. Why are you telling me the second problem? Lu Ming asked, looking at Princess Tsong Xian in confusion. If she told him the first problem, it would be easy to understand. After all, Lu Ming promised to help Princess Tsong Xian once, but he hadn't helped Princess Tsong Xian yet. How could Princess Tsong Xian let Lu Ming be killed by Yuan Wuji, Gaishak, and the others? But the second problem was not easy to explain. Everyone knew that the creatures of the 3 Forbidden Lands needed all kinds of resources the most, such as immortal crystals, immortal stones, and various levels of divine herbs, and these resources were the most abundant under the meridians. The creatures of the 3 Forbidden Lands would plunder the meridians one by one. In the end, each tribe would be able to get the resources of 3 meridians. This was definitely a huge amount of resources that could awaken more creatures of the Forbidden Lands. This should be more beneficial for Princess Tsong Xian. But why did Princess Tsong Xian tell Lu Ming and let Lu Ming and the others go to other meridians to plunder resources? This was clearly snatching resources from the creatures of the 3 Forbidden Lands. What benefits would this bring to Princess Tsong Xian? Take a guess. Princess Tsong Xian said with a smile, smiling like a little fox. There's no need to guess because you're not from the Tsong Ming clan at all. A voice sounded. It was Xian Yanqing. Princess Tsong Xian's expression didn't change. She was still very calm. However, the others looked at Xian Yanqing curiously, including Lu Ming. Princess Tsong Xian wasn't from the Tsong Ming clan? They clearly saw Princess Tsong Xian with the other experts of the Tsong Ming clan before. Could it be that someone else was impersonating her? How did Xian Yanqing see through it? Xian Yanqing stared at Princess Tsong Xian with bright eyes and said, "Your disguise technique is indeed brilliant. You can even disguise the aura of life origin. I'm afraid even an ordinary life origin wouldn't be easily seen through. Unfortunately, I'm too familiar with you, Dark Knight Rose." What? Dark Knight Rose? This woman is Dark Knight Rose? Lu Ming was shocked. How many years had it been? Ever since the universe was in chaos and the universe recovered from ruins, Dark Knight Rose, Di Jinni and the others had disappeared without a trace. Could it be that Princess Tsong Xian was really Dark Knight Rose in disguise? You don't have to pretend. Although your appearance and aura of life origin have changed, your expression, even your eyes, and some of your small habits can't be hidden from my eyes. I can confirm that you are Dark Knight Rose. Xian Yanqing said. Ever since Princess Tsong Tian appeared, Xian Yanqing hadn't said a word. She had been secretly observing Princess Tsong Xian. Because when she first saw Princess Tsong Xian, she felt a sense of familiarity. Ha! Princess Tsong Xian laughed so hard that her body trembled. As she laughed, her appearance and the aura of her life origin began to change drastically. In the end, her appearance completely changed. Although she was still beautiful, she didn't look like Princess Tsong Xian at all. Dark Knight Rose. It was really Dark Knight Rose. I see. Lu Ming finally knew why Dark Knight Rose reminded him and why she wanted them to search for the resources in the realm meridians. Because she wasn't from the Tsong Ming tribe. Although Lu Ming and Dark Knight Rose didn't have a good relationship, it was better than falling into the hands of the creatures in the Forbidden Land. The creatures in the Forbidden Land could be said to be the common enemy of all the creatures in the primitive universe. Chapter 4930. Princess Tsong Xian was the Dark Knight Rose, which explained a lot of things. The resources in the meridians would be better off in Lu Ming's hands than in the hands of the creatures in the Forbidden Grounds. I knew I couldn't hide it from you. I didn't plan to keep it a secret from you. The Dark Knight Rose smiled and looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, I helped you again. Remember, you still owe me a favor. After saying that, Dark Knight Rose quickly retreated and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The Dark Knight Rose is getting more and more mysterious. Lu Ming muttered. He felt that he couldn't see through the Dark Night Rose anymore. When the Dark Night Rose met Xian Yanqing for the first time, she was obviously afraid of Xian Yanqing. But this time, she wasn't afraid of Xian Yanqing at all. Instead, she was very calm. Moreover, this woman's cultivation had reached the 9th level of the Divine Master realm. This speed of improvement wasn't any slower than the rest of them. This showed how talented this woman was. More importantly, she was able to sneak into the Tsangming tribe and become the princess of the Tsangming tribe. The Tsangming tribe didn't notice at all. This made it even more difficult. It could be speculated that the Dark Night Rose most likely used the identity of Princess Tsang Xian to enter the Purple Heaven Grotto. The real Princess Tsang Xian was most likely killed by the Dark Night Rose. Xiao Qing, how much do you know about the Dark Night Rose? Lu Ming asked Xian Yanqing. The others also looked at Xian Yanqing. The Dark Night Rose is the one and only sky-devouring rose in the universe. Of course, she was the one who told me this name. When I first met her, she was still very weak, so I signed a contract with her. Nominally, she was my pet. However, I have never treated her as a pet, but as a sister. However, she is very ambitious and has always wanted to get rid of me and become the master of the universe. However, she has never succeeded. Later, 60 stellar years ago, a great war broke out between us and the Heavenly Palace. She and I both died in that war. I didn't expect that we would reincarnate together. Xian Yanqing said. Do you know where she came from? Lu Ming continued to ask. That's right. The heaven-devouring rose is unique in the universe. It must have parents. Could it have jumped out of a stone? Or was it like the bone demon or the primordial divine spirit, born from heaven and earth? Dandan added. Xian Yanqing shook his head and said, I don't know. Back then I asked her, but she didn't know either. Do you feel that Dark Night Rose is a little different from before? Lu Ming said. It is indeed different, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Xian Yanqing frowned. Lu Ming, what did you promise her? Then, Xian Yanqing changed the topic and asked. I'll help her do something in Zixia Grotto Heaven. Lu Ming said. We still have to be careful of her. She's full of tricks. We have to be careful. Xian Yanqing said. Don't worry. I promised her something on the premise that I won't put myself in danger. Lu Ming smiled. Then what are we going to do next? Are we going to dig out the treasures in the meridians? Dandan said. His eyes lit up when he talked about treasures. Qiuqiu's eyes also lit up. Its 2 rows of teeth were already chattering. Of course we're going to dig out those treasures. We can't let the creatures of the Forbidden Ground take advantage of us. But before that, let's check which meridian the creature is on, Lu Ming said. Then, Lu Ming asked the others to enter the ancient desolation ring. He and Bubbles headed towards the meridian where the creature was. Sure enough, the creature had already changed to another meridian. Obviously, the treasures in the previous meridian had already been taken. Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Gaishak and the others were not there. Only the ordinary creatures of the Forbidden Ground were scattered around the meridian, looking alert. Lu Ming let Dandan out of the ancient desolation ring. Dandan sensed a terrifying array formation. Anya Rose was right. The creature of the Forbidden Ground had indeed set up an origin-level array formation here, waiting for Lu Ming to take the bait. Let's go to the other meridian. Then Lu Ming and the others left. They went in the opposite direction of the meridian and came to another meridian on the other side of the island. There's a surveillance array formation around this meridian. Dandan stood in the void and sensed it. It seems that the creature of the Forbidden Ground set it up here. As soon as we appear, we will be discovered by them. Xian Yanqing said. Dandan, can you find all the surveillance arrays here and break them? Lu Ming asked. Of course, but once you break them, the creatures of the Forbidden Ground will immediately sense it. Dandan said. It's okay. At most, we'll change to another meridian. Lu Ming said. But Dandan nodded and began to act. Soon, all the surveillance arrays were found. Lu Ming and the others acted and all the surveillance arrays were broken. Then, they quickly left and came to another meridian. The creatures of the Forbidden Ground had also set up a surveillance array around this meridian. They repeated the same trick and let Dandan find it and break it. Then, they left and came to the third meridian. This meridian also had a surveillance array set up by the creatures of the Forbidden Ground. It seemed that the creatures of the Forbidden Ground had all set up surveillance arrays around the island. As long as others appeared, they would be sensed by the creatures of the Forbidden Ground. Lu Ming and the others destroyed all the surveillance arrays around the remaining meridian. After that, Dandan himself set up a surveillance array around the meridian. Then he randomly chose a meridian and rushed in. The surveillance arrays around 7 meridian were all broken. The creatures of the Forbidden Ground couldn't figure out which meridian Lu Ming and the others would enter. Even if they came with a large force, it wouldn't be easy to find Lu Ming and the others. Even if they found them, there were surveillance arrays set up by Dandan around the meridian. They could find the other party in advance and escape in advance. There's most likely a top source level divine medicine in this meridian. We can't let it escape. I'll set up the array first, Dandan said. After entering the meridian, Dandan turned into his original form and began to set up arrays along the way. His turtle shell glowed, and endless runes flew out and disappeared into the walls and the void. That kind of top source level divine medicine was too good at escaping. It was too fast. If they weren't careful, they would escape. Only by setting up the array in advance could they be confident of taking the top source level divine medicine. They went all the way down and set up arrays. After setting up arrays in this direction, they went to another direction to set up arrays. Sharpening a knife won't delay the work of cutting firewood. Compared to the value of the top source level divine medicine, these preparations were not worth mentioning. After setting up arrays in all directions, they landed at the bottom of the meridian. Chapter 49-31. As soon as they landed at the bottom of the meridian, they found a large number of immortal stones and major divine herbs. They began to loot without hesitation. After that, they continued to move forward. Finally, they arrived at the center of the meridian and found a huge immortal stone vein. Just like what they had found before, the vein was densely packed with immortal stones that were embedded in transparent rocks. In order to save time, they did not dig out the immortal stones one by one. Instead, they dug out the entire vein. This process took them a few days. Fortunately, the beings of the Forbidden Lands did not come over these few days. They were probably busy digging for their own resources. In the end, the entire vein of immortal stones was stored in Lu Ming's ancient desolate ring. Why didn't we find any top source level divine herbs? Dandan's eyes darted around as he scanned the surroundings. During this period, they had found a few ordinary source level divine herbs, but there was no sign of any top source level divine herbs. Logically speaking, there should be at least one top source level divine herb in such a large meridian. Could it have escaped before we came in? That's not impossible. Everyone discussed. A top source level divine herb had escaped from the first meridian that they had landed in. In the end, it had fallen into the hands of the Yi Immortal. It was not impossible that the top source level divine herb in this meridian had escaped long ago. Let's look around. If we can't find it, we'll go to the next meridian. Lu Ming said. They did not have much time left. The beings of the 3 Forbidden Lands worked together to dig out resources at an astonishing speed. Not long ago, Dandan discovered through the surveillance array that the beings of the Forbidden Lands had moved 1 meridian. They had already started on the 3rd one. They had to speed up to get a piece of meat from the beings of the Forbidden Lands. Immediately, everyone spread out their spiritual senses to search for top source level divine herbs. This time, it did not take long for them to find something. Over here quick! Tang Jun suddenly shouted. Swish, swish, swish. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Dandan, and the others rushed towards Tang Jun without hesitation. That is, Lu Ming immediately discovered that there was a light flickering on Tang Jun's side, rushing into the distance. A stalk of divine medicine. That's right, it was a top-grade origin-grade divine herb. It turned out that the top-grade source-level divine medicine in this meridian had not escaped, but had been hiding in the dark all this time. When Lu Ming and the others spread out to search, they seemed to know that they could no longer hide, so they quickly fled and were discovered by Tang Jun. Lu Ming and the others pushed their speed to the limit, especially Bubble, whose speed was the fastest. She was almost as fast as a top-tier source-grade divine herb. Space-time power. Bubble thrust out a palm, and the void rippled like water. The power of space-time quickly gushed out and enveloped the top-grade source-grade divine herb. Suddenly, the top-grade source-grade divine herb's speed was greatly reduced, as if it had fallen into a swamp. But in the next moment, the top-grade source-grade divine herb's entire body glowed, and its speed suddenly increased again. In an instant, it rushed through the space-time power and continued to flee. What a powerful divine herb! This top-grade source-grade divine herb had no other abilities except for its ability to escape. It was not easy to catch up to it alone. Soon, they arrived at the edge of the meridian. "Array rise!" At this moment, Dandan shouted in a low voice, and the turtle shell glowed. Immediately, dense runes appeared in the void, and these runes intertwined to form an array. All of them were trapping arrays. Countless threads appeared in the void like an inescapable net, enveloping the top-grade source-grade divine herb. There was no way to escape at all. The divine herb glowed, wanting to rush through these arrays. However, Lu Ming and the others had already arrived. Space-time power. Heavenly Demon Field. Bubble and Xian Yanqing attacked one after another. Two powerful forces supported the array and enveloped the top-grade source-grade divine herb. This time, the top-grade source-grade divine herb could no longer escape. Lu Ming condensed a large hand and grabbed it into the Chaos Ring. Divine herbs of all grades were stored in the Chaos Ring because they could be planted in the Chaos Ring. When not in use, they could preserve their medicinal properties. If they were stored in a storage ring and not used for a long time, their medicinal properties would definitely dissipate. With the top-grade source-grade divine herb in their hands, everyone smiled. This was definitely a great harvest. This trip was not in vain. However, they did not continue to delay. They immediately rushed to the second meridian and began to plunder resources. Dandan repeated the same trick and set up many trapping arrays in all directions of the meridian. This time, it didn't take long for them to find a top-grade source-grade divine herb in this meridian. A top-tier source-grade divine herb naturally fled as fast as it could. However, the outcome was already determined. When it reached the edge of the area, Dandan activated the array formation. Then, Xian Yanqing, Bubbles and the others joined forces and successfully captured the top-tier source-grade divine herb. 3 of them. Since entering the Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven, they had already obtained 3 of these top-grade source-grade divine herbs. As for ordinary source-grade divine herbs, they had even more. There was also a huge immortal stone vein in this meridian. Everyone worked hard to excavate it. "Not good." Halfway through, Dandan suddenly exclaimed. "What's wrong? Did the creatures of the Forbidden Lands come to this meridian?" Bubble quickly asked. The others' faces also changed. If the creatures of the 3 Forbidden Lands happened to come to this meridian, they would have to give up on digging and retreat in advance. "No, it's the monitoring array formation I set up. It's all been destroyed," Dandan said. "Is it from this meridian or the other meridian?" Lu Ming asked. "It's from all the meridian. Just now, the surveillance array I set up around all the meridian was destroyed. It must be the doing of the creatures of the Forbidden Lands," Dandan said. "It's all destroyed. It seems that the creatures of the Forbidden Lands are about to make a move," Lu Ming said with a solemn expression. Once the surveillance array was destroyed, they couldn't grasp the whereabouts of the creatures of the Forbidden Lands. If the creatures of the Forbidden Lands entered this meridian, they wouldn't be able to detect them. "Let's continue digging." Dandan set up surveillance arrays at all the exits of the meridian. Once the creatures of the Forbidden Lands come here, we'll retreat in another direction. Lu Ming said. The creatures of the Forbidden Lands probably didn't know which meridian they were under. According to what Dandan saw through the surveillance array, the creatures of the Forbidden Lands had already plundered 3 meridians in a row and entered the 4th. The 4th meridian was probably almost completely plundered. Of the 9 meridians, there were still 5 that had not been plundered by the creatures of the Forbidden Grounds. There was a 1/5 chance that the creatures of the Forbidden Lands might not coincidentally enter this meridian. They still had time. He was truly unwilling to give up on an entire immortal stone vein after excavating half of it. Chapter 49-32. Dandan went to set up the formation, while Lu Ming and the others continued to dig. Fortunately, the creatures of the Forbidden Lands did not come to this meridian. After 2 meridians, they successfully dug out the entire meridian. Then they left the meridian. Sure enough, the creatures of the Forbidden Lands have set up a surveillance formation around the meridian. Watch me break it. Lu Ming and the others floated above the meridian. Dandan glanced around. The turtle shell glowed, and a large number of runes flew out, breaking the surveillance formation around the meridian. Let's go. Our whereabouts must have been discovered by the creatures of the Forbidden Lands. Lu Ming said. Since the creatures of the Forbidden Lands had set up another surveillance formation around the meridian, they would have been discovered when they flew out of the meridian. Perhaps the experts of the 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands had already come. It was not good to stay for long. Lu Ming and the group left the place quickly. They only came to a stop after flying for a long distance. Now, the 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands must have entered the 5th meridian. We have already dug out 2, so there are 2 more left. Do you want to go? Dandan asked, looking at Lu Ming and the others. If we go now, the chances of encountering the 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands are too high. Lion shook his head. There were still 2 meridian that had not been dug out, and the creatures of the Forbidden Lands had set up surveillance formations around the meridian. Even if Dandan could break these surveillance formations, the chances of encountering the creatures of the Forbidden Lands were still very high. The 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands had 6 invincible divine masters and a large number of Guangqin imperial envoys. Once they were surrounded, they would be doomed. Forget it. Let's wait for the ancient city in the middle. Lu Ming also shook his head and gave up on digging the meridian. Their strength was still too weak. If they were as strong as the 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands, they would not have to be afraid. They could compete with the other party openly. The others did not object. They came to the ancient city in the middle and found a more remote place, where Dandan set up a concealment formation. They intended to wait here. As the meridians collapsed one by one, the resources inside were dug out. The ancient city could no longer absorb energy, and the power of the formations around the city walls became weaker and weaker. He believed that it would not be long before the array around the city walls dissipated. At that time, he believed that he would be able to enter the ancient city. This ancient city might very well be the true core of the Violet Firmament Immortal Empire. A place where an immortal was in charge was definitely not a small matter. Divine weapons, divine medicines, immortal stones, immortal crystals, joint attack array carriers, all kinds of ancient books, chi refinement arts, and so on. Just thinking about this made people's hearts burn. In the blink of an eye, another few days passed. On this day, Lu Ming suddenly received a voice transmission. It was from Firmament, saying that there was something important to discuss with him. Song Qiong, you also came here? I thought no one from the quasi-immortal race came. Lu Ming muttered. As the number of experts in the forbidden area increased, it could be said that experts were as common as clouds on this island, and the quasi-saint race was gradually not enough. This was because the quasi-immortal race did not have an invincible divine master expert overseeing it. It was very difficult for them to compete with other forces. Lu Ming originally thought that the quasi-immortal race had not come to this island. Now it seemed that the quasi-immortal race had come, but they were hiding in the dark. Lu Ming, the quasi-immortal race's people, be careful of traps. Xian Yanqing warned. They did not forget the battle between Lu Ming and the Yi Immortal. The Yi Immortal and the 3 races of the forbidden area had joined forces, and Lu Ming had almost been in danger. Who knew if Firmament would also join forces with the 3 races of the forbidden area to trick Lu Ming? They had to be on guard. As if afraid that Lu Ming would be on guard, Firmament sent another message. Brother Lu, the celestial race and the creatures of the forbidden area are not from this universe, which is why they are hostile to you. My quasi-immortal race is a native of the primitive universe, and we have the same origin. The stronger you are, the more advantageous it is for my race. Why would we harm you? It seemed that Firmament already knew that the Yi Immortal and the 3 races of the Forbidden Area had joined forces to kill Lu Ming. Furthermore, Firmament also knew the secret of the forbidden power. The quasi-immortal race really knew a lot of secrets. However, as Firmament had said, Firmament had no reason to join forces with the creatures of the Forbidden Area. But he had to be on guard. Lu Ming replied to Firmament that Lu Ming had set the location and time to meet. Soon after, Lu Ming set off with Dandan and Bubbles. Bringing along Dandan was to prevent them from being tricked by the creatures of the Forbidden Area. Bringing along Bubbles would allow them to escape quickly. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the destination. Dandan observed for a while and didn't find any formation fluctuations in the surroundings. However, they didn't show themselves immediately. Instead, they continued to cover their bodies with the space-time force and hid in the dark to observe. Soon after, a figure arrived at lightning speed. Who else could it be other than Firmament? Firmament was the only one who came. After confirming that there was no danger, Lu Ming showed himself. Brother Lu, Firmament was delighted to see Lu Ming. He cupped his fists and greeted him. Brother Firmament, you said there was something important. May I know what it is? Lu Ming went straight to the point. There is a great opportunity that I want to share with Brother Lu. Firmament smiled. There is a great opportunity that you want to share with me? Lu Ming's lips curled into an inexplicable smile. If there was really a great opportunity, why would Firmament share it with Lu Ming? Would he be so kind? Unless Firmament couldn't handle it himself and needed Lu Ming's help. Firmament remained calm and said, I wonder if Brother Lu has heard of the Origin Divine Tea? Origin Divine Tea. Lu Ming's expression suddenly changed. Origin Divine Tea only exists in legends. Is there really such a miraculous medicine in the world? Lu Ming couldn't help but ask. The origin of a legend is often true. It's just that too much time has passed, or perhaps the majority of people have never seen it before. That's why it became a legend. Divine Origin Tea naturally exists, but it's just too rare. However, not long ago I discovered traces of it. Firmament Path. Really? Where is it? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He had naturally heard of the Origin Divine Tea. It could allow a 9th-tier Divine Master to quickly break through and reach the peak of the Divine Master Realm. To reach the peak of the Divine Master Realm from the 9th-tier Divine Master Realm, one had to slowly accumulate the power of Origin. It was very difficult to do so overnight. Even though Lu Ming had a clear understanding of the origin in the Cosmic Sea and his speed of comprehending the origin was dozens or even hundreds of times faster than ordinary people, it would still take a long time to break through. However, the Origin Divine Tea could directly skip this process in a short time. Once he obtained the Origin Divine Tea, his cultivation would quickly break through to the peak of the Divine Master Realm. Once his cultivation reached the peak of the Divine Master Realm, who below the origin would be his match? At that time, wouldn't he be invincible in Purple Heaven Hollow? Even if there were many experts in the Forbidden Land, he wouldn't be afraid. Wouldn't the treasures in the ancient city in the center be at his disposal? Not only him, but if he obtained enough Origin Divine Tea leaves, Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others could also reach the peak of the Divine Master Realm. Chapter 49-33. Now, there were still close to 8,500 years until the end of the Origin Tribulation. As long as they reached the peak of the Divine Lord Realm, they could use these 8,000 years to consolidate and accumulate. With the help of top source-grade divine herbs, they might be able to reach the Origin Realm after the Origin Tribulation. Thinking of this, even with Lu Ming's temperament, his heart couldn't help but beat faster. It's on this island, in a dark red mountain range. But there's an extreme Een corpse there. Firmament Path. It's that dark red mountain range. Lu Ming's expression changed. There was only one dark red mountain range where an extreme Een corpse lived, so Lu Ming naturally knew about it. There were 3 dark red regions on this island, all of which had extreme Een corpses and golden-eyed Een corpses guarding them. 2 of them were plains, while the last one was a mountain range. The Origin Divine Tea was actually in this region. This was troublesome. There was a golden-eyed Een corpse guarding it, as well as a large number of other extreme Yin corpses. It wouldn't be easy to obtain the origin divine tea in this region. That region has a golden-eyed Yin corpse guarding it. The golden-eyed Yin corpse is known as an extreme Yin corpse king, and its battle strength is terrifying. Even divine lords might not be its match. Moreover, who knows how many extreme Yin corpse kings there are in that region. It won't be easy to obtain the origin divine tea. It's very dangerous, Lu Ming said. Actually, we don't have to fight to the death with the extreme Yin corpse. The golden-eyed Yin corpses and silver-eyed Yin corpses here are extremely intelligent. We can cooperate with them. Firmament Path. Cooperate with the extreme Yin corpse? How is that possible? The extreme Yin corpse wants to kill all the outsiders that come here. Why would it cooperate with us? Lu Ming asked. It might not be impossible. Brother Lu, do you know why the extreme Yin corpse wants to kill outsiders? Firmament Path. Lu Ming didn't say anything, waiting for the Firmament Path's answer. I've sent people back to my clan to look up more ancient books about the extreme Yin corpse and obtained more information. According to that information, I speculate that the extreme Yin corpse wants to kill outsiders because of the immortal's molting. Firmament Path. The molting of an immortal? Lu Ming was puzzled, not understanding what he meant. The molting of an immortal is a part of the essence left behind by an immortal after he passes away. It's a peerless treasure. Firmament Path. Lu Ming was stunned. Transcendents were also known as immortals. What kind of existences were they? In any case, Lu Ming found it hard to imagine. Anything that involved immortals was no small matter. Needless to say, it was a part of the immortal body's essence. It was simply a priceless treasure. There was an immortal's molting on this island? According to the latest information, the Absolute Yin corpse should be produced by the Absolute Yin tribe. The Absolute Yin corpse is similar to the living beings of the three great forbidden lands. In the last era, it was also a living being of a terrifying forbidden land. I speculate that in the last era, the Purple Firmament Immortal Kingdom should have had a great battle with the Absolute Yin tribe. Moreover, it was definitely an immortal-level battle. You should know that the Purple Firmament Immortal Kingdom had an immortal guarding it. If it wasn't for an immortal-level battle, the Purple Firmament Immortal Kingdom wouldn't have been destroyed. It is very likely that two immortal-level powerhouses had a great battle. In the end, both sides were injured and passed away, leaving behind the immortals molting. And the Absolute Yin corpse of the Purple Firmament Grotto is very likely produced by the immortal-level powerhouse of the Absolute Yin tribe. The blood of the immortal-level powerhouse of the Absolute Yin tribe flows on the three dark red lands. The Tsongqiong Path shared his speculations with Qin Nan. Lu Ming's heart was in turmoil. This was because he felt that the Firmament Path's speculations were very logical and logical. He recalled that Gaishak had once mocked the golden-eyed Yin corpse when he fought with it, saying that the golden-eyed Yin corpse was of mixed blood. In other words, the Absolute Yin corpse of the Purple Firmament Grotto was a member of the Purple Firmament Grotto. It was because of the immortal-level powerhouse of the Absolute Yin tribe that it became an Absolute Yin corpse. Its bloodline was naturally not pure, and it was not a true Absolute Yin tribe member. Also, whether it was the Primordial Light tribe or the Baleful Yin tribe, they knew the weakness of the Absolute Yin corpse. Even without the blue firestone, they could easily defeat the Absolute Yin corpse. If the Absolute Yin tribe was also a creature of the Forbidden Land, then it made sense. They knew each other better. All the clues came together, and the things that he did not understand in the past suddenly became clear. I think that the ancient city is the place where the immortal-level powerhouses fought. The immortal's molting is also there. If the Absolute Yin corpse wants to obtain the immortal's molting of the Absolute Yin tribe member, it will naturally chase away outsiders. They are afraid that outsiders will snatch the immortal's molting from them. But now, the creatures of the Forbidden Land have gathered. There are many powerhouses, and their strength is completely above the Absolute Yin corpse. With the creatures of the Forbidden Land, it will be difficult for the Absolute Yin corpse to obtain the immortal's molting. As long as we agree to help the Absolute Yin corpse and help them obtain the immortal's molting, it will not be difficult to cooperate with them. The firmament path. Lu Ming nodded. He had to admit that what Firmament said was very reasonable. Those who could command the quasi-saint tribe were not simple. Firmament was extremely intelligent and was definitely not inferior to him. How are we going to split the divine origin tea? You seem to have only brought one piece of news, but I have to risk my life, Lu Ming said indifferently. I don't want much. I only want one divine origin tea leaf. The firmament path. Only one. Lu Ming was stunned. Firmament's request was so low? One divine origin tea leaf is enough for me to break through to the peak of the divine master realm. More is useless. However, the divine origin tea leaf is not that easy to obtain. My request is that no matter how many divine origin tea leaves you obtain, you have to give me at least one. Even if you only obtain one divine origin tea leaf, you have to give me one. I don't want more, but I want at least one. Firmament repeatedly emphasized. But Lu Ming agreed. Even if Firmament obtained the divine origin tea leaf and broke through to the peak of the divine master realm, Lu Ming would not care. Given Firmament's talent, even if he broke through to the peak of the divine master realm, his battle strength would only be equivalent to the Guangqin imperial envoy. He would not reach the level of an invincible divine master. Lu Ming did not care about anyone who was not an invincible divine master. The two discussed for a while and agreed to take action half a day later. After Lu Ming, Dandan, and Bubbles returned, they discussed with the others. When the others heard about it, they were dumbfounded. After making a final deduction, they felt that there was no problem and set off together. Firmament was already waiting for them at the edge of the dark red mountain range. In addition to Firmament, there were dozens of quasi-saint tribe members. Except for the Guangqin imperial envoy, the rest should be able to set up a joint attack formation. The divine origin tea should still be hiding in this mountain range and hasn't left. The firmament path. There was a huge mountain range in front of them. It was located on the ground and covered a huge area. A dense and cold aura was constantly emitted from it. Bubbles, go in and check it out. If you find the divine origin tea, don't act rashly. Inform us first and wait for us to act together. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubbles. Chapter 4934. Letting Bubble investigate first was to avoid alerting the Extreme Een Corpse. If the Extreme Een Corpse was alerted at the start, it would be difficult to find the origin divine tea without alerting anyone. Even if the Extreme Een Corpse was alerted, it would also alert the origin divine tea and cause it to escape. If the origin divine tea escaped, it would be difficult to find it again. Leave it to me. Bubbles' figure disappeared after saying that. Using the power of time and space, it entered the dark red mountain range. Lu Ming and the others waited quietly in place. The dark red mountain range covered a large area. If the origin divine tea was hidden within, it would be very difficult to find it. Without some time, it would be impossible to find it. In the blink of an eye, 5 days passed. Bubble returned after 5 days. I found it. I found the origin divine tea. It's hidden in a valley in the dark red mountain range. Bubble said. Good. Bubble, I'll have to trouble you to use the power of time and space to help us hide and enter the dark red mountain range. Lu Ming said. No problem. However, with so many people, my power of time and space will be too scattered. The effect will be greatly reduced. I'm not sure if I can hide it from the Extreme Een Corpse. Bubble said. Do your best. I'll get Dandan to work with you. Lu Ming said. Dandan placed a formation on each person's body to hide their blood energy. After all, the Extreme Een Corpse was very sensitive to blood energy. It couldn't detect non-blood energy life forms like Bone Demon and Qiuqiu. The Extreme Een Corpse also couldn't detect plant life forms. That was why the origin divine tea was hidden here. After Dandan placed a formation on each person's body, Bubble used the power of time and space to envelop everyone. After making the preparations, they flew into the sky and headed towards the dark red mountain range. Sure enough, after flying for a while, they didn't alert the Extreme Een Corpse. This made everyone happy. They increased their speed. After a while, it's in the valley in front. Bubble said in a low voice as it pointed ahead. There was a huge valley in front of them. The stone walls on both sides were smooth as if they had been cut by a blade. The origin divine tea was in this valley. Everyone's heartbeat quickened. Once they obtained the origin divine tea, they would be able to break through to the peak of the divine master realm. Song Qiong's eyes became even more heated. Right at this moment, whoosh! A beam of light suddenly flew out of the canyon and fled into the distance at an astonishing speed. The plant was less than a meter tall, and its leaves were as clear as jade. Divine source tea. Everyone was shocked. This was clearly divine origin tea. Needless to say, they had been discovered. The sensitivity of the divine origin tea had exceeded their expectations. Chase! Lu Ming shouted in a low voice as he rushed out. At this moment, Xiao Chen could no longer care about hiding. If he continued hiding, the origin god tea would escape. The others also raised their speed to the limit and chased after the divine origin tea. As such, their auras could no longer be concealed, and they were immediately discovered by the absolute Yin corpse underground. Roar, roar, roar. A series of low roars sounded out as the ground shook. A large number of extreme Yin corpses rushed out of the ground and pounced towards Lu Ming and the others. Stop them! Firmament shouted. With a wave of his hand, he shot out long needles made of blue firestones. The other quasi-saint tribe members that Firmament had brought along also shot out blue firestones. The ordinary extreme Yin corpses were instantly stopped by the blue firestones. However, the roars from all directions became more and more intense. More and more extreme Yin corpses appeared and pounced towards the group. Kill all these outsiders! An angry roar sounded out from a silver-eyed Yin corpse. The silver-eyed Yin corpse had intelligence and could speak. It could even cultivate and control other extreme Yin corpses. More and more extreme Yin corpses rushed towards the group. Xian Yanqing, Guamo, and the others all took action. They all shot out blue firestones weapons and blocked the extreme Yin corpses that were rushing over. Of course, there were many extreme Yin corpses that were comparable to the strongest existence, the Lord of Heaven. They had a strong resistance to blue firestones. They rushed through the blue firestone fog and continued to charge towards Lu Ming and the others. Xian Yanqing, Guamo, and the others all took out weapons with blue firestones and charged forward to block the extreme Yin corpses. At the same time, Gu Changfeng also took action. He shot out a Genesis art. Terrifying fist force surged out and sent dozens of powerful extreme Yin corpses flying. Lu Ming and Bubbles did not take action. Bubbles used the space-time force to support Lu Ming and quickly chased after the divine origin tea. The divine origin tea's speed was extremely shocking. It was even faster than top-tier origin-grade divine herbs. Lu Ming's speed alone was not enough to catch up. He had to rely on Bubbles' space-time force to catch up to the divine origin tea. The distance between him and the divine origin tea was getting closer and closer. Kill! An earth-shattering roar was heard as a violent baleful Yin qi gushed out in all directions. A golden-eyed extreme Yin corpse charged towards Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. It was a golden-eyed Yin corpse, an extreme Yin corpse king. Not only that, but there were also 6 silver-eyed Yin corpses and a large number of other extreme Yin corpses. Such a lineup was absolutely terrifying. Set up the formation, stop them. Firmament roared. The quasi-saints he had brought with him set up a joint attack formation to fight against the extreme Yin corpses. Lu Ming, leave this golden-eyed Yin corpse to me. You continue chasing after the divine origin tea. Gu Changfeng transmitted a message to Lu Ming. His figure flashed as he charged towards the golden-eyed Yin corpse. Bright moon wind fist. Origin energy surged as he punched out. The void exploded into nothingness as the fist force rushed towards the golden-eyed Yin corpse with earth-shattering force. This punch possessed the battle strength of an unrivaled divine master. It also possessed the battle strength to injure the golden-eyed corpse king. The golden-eyed corpse king did not dare to be careless. He brandished the tattered battle blade in his hand and slashed out a pitch-black blade light to block Gu Changfeng's fist force. Soon after, one man and one corpse began to fight. Joint attack formation. When Gu Changfeng attacked, Lion, Xianyanqing, Autumn Moon and the others also began to set up the formation. A ferocious black-armored warrior condensed. Without Bubble, they only had 11 people to set up the formation. The joint attack formation was not perfect, but its battle strength was still very strong. It was not a big problem to block a few silver-eyed Yin corpses. However, there were 7 silver-eyed Yin corpses in total. It was not a perfect joint attack formation, so it was impossible to block so many silver-eyed Yin corpses. There were still a few that continued to charge towards Lu Ming. Desolation style. Lu Ming struck out with his palm. A piece of land formed and charged vertically towards the silver-eyed Yin corpses. As for himself, because of the thrust of this palm, his speed became a little faster and he rushed towards the divine origin T even faster. Soon, Lu Ming and Bubble worked together and increased their speed to the maximum. The distance between them and the divine origin T was constantly closing. They could even faintly smell the rich medicinal fragrance of the divine origin T. Just the medicinal fragrance alone shook Lu Ming's mind. The origin energy of the origin seed became somewhat restless. Chapter 49-35. The divine origin tea was truly extraordinary. Just the smell of it had caused such a great reaction. If the tea leaves were used to brew tea, the effects would be heaven-defying. The divine origin tea was not only useful for breaking through to Peak God Lord, but it was also useful for breaking through to origin. Moreover, if origin realm existences frequently used the tea leaves to brew tea, it would be greatly beneficial to their cultivation. If they could raise a single divine origin tea, it would be a priceless treasure. Lu Ming did not just want to obtain the tea leaves, but he wanted to take the entire divine origin tea. They were getting closer and closer to the divine origin tea. Bubble attack. Lu Ming shouted in a low voice. Space-time power. Bubble had been prepared for this for a long time. She thrust out her small, white hands, and space-time power permeated the air, enveloping the divine origin tea. The divine origin tea's fleeing figure stiffened for a moment. A good chance. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he reached out with his claw. Forbidden energy erupted, forming a giant hand that reached for the divine origin tea. The giant hand descended, seemingly about to grab the divine origin tea. However, the divine origin tea's ability to escape was truly extraordinary. At this critical moment, its entire body glowed and it broke free from the influence of the power of time and space. Its speed increased tremendously once again. With a swoosh, it dashed forward, dashing through the gaps between Lu Ming's fingers that were condensed. You want to leave? Say. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed as he roared. His hand trembled, sending a powerful energy toward the divine origin tea. With a plop, the force brushed against a branch of the divine origin tea. The branch violently shook, causing the tea leaves on it to fall off and scatter in the air. There were over a dozen divine origin tea leaves. However, the main body of the divine origin tea used this opportunity to charge forward like a bolt of lightning. Lu Ming and Bubbles dashed over and collected more than 10 origin god tea leaves. They then continued their pursuit of the origin god tea leaves. However, at this moment, Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. A figure had suddenly appeared in front of him. A woman, an absolute beauty. Princess Song Xian, or more accurately, Dark Night Rose. Dark Night Rose's body emitted a special aura, and a black rose bloomed above her head. The origin god tea had clearly discovered Dark Night Rose, but it didn't slow down in the slightest. Instead, it charged straight for her. He rushed into the rose on top of the Dark Night Rose's head and disappeared. What happened? Lu Ming was extremely puzzled. When the divine origin tea saw Dark Night Rose, it didn't run away. Instead, it rushed towards her. It was simply walking right into a trap. Lu Ming, thank you for helping me obtain the origin divine tea. I will remember this favor. Dark Night Rose smiled. At the same time, her body quickly retreated. As he retreated, his body split into 2, 2 into 4, and 4 into 8. In total, there were 8 figures. Each of the figures looked like the original body and had the exact same aura. 8 figures sprang into 8 different directions at a shocking speed. Damn it! Lu Ming stopped and didn't give chase. Even if he did, he didn't know which figure he should go after. He was very displeased. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Obviously, he had become the mantis, and Dark Night Rose had become the sparrow. However, he couldn't figure out why the origin god T didn't run away after seeing Dark Night Rose. Instead, it rushed towards her. Could it be related to Dark Night Rose's original body? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Dark Night Rose's original body was the Sky Devourer rose, which was also a kind of plant. From this point of view, it had the same origin as the origin god T. Seeing that Lu Ming was about to catch up with the origin god T, it made sense that it would run towards Dark Night Rose, which was of the same origin as it. Dark Night Rose had already disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming could only admit that he was unlucky. The key point was that Lu Ming still owed Dark Night Rose a favor. He had sworn on his life source. Thinking that he still had to do something for Dark Night Rose, Lu Ming felt very uncomfortable. Behind them, Gu Changfeng and the others were still fighting with the extreme Yin corpse. Several silver-eyed Yin corpses were rushing towards Lu Ming. They clawed out with their sharp claws and a sharp force tore at Lu Ming. "Get lost!" Lu Ming shouted and swept out his battle god spear. Bang! 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 Several silver-eyed Yin corpses were sent flying by Lu Ming. Then, Lu Ming and Bubbles quickly returned. Lu Ming charged towards the golden-eyed Yin corpse, while Bubbles charged towards Xian Yanqing and the others. They merged into the ferocious black-armored warrior and set up a formation with Xian Yanqing and the others. The perfect combination formation was set up and its power increased greatly. It suppressed the silver-eyed Yin corpses in an instant. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng joined forces and completely suppressed the golden-eyed Yin corpse. After a few moves, the golden-eyed Yin corpse was swept by Lu Ming's spear. It was knocked back and the thick black aura on its body dissipated by a lot. Kill. The golden-eyed Yin corpse roared and wanted to attack Lu Ming and the others. "I know that you want the immortal molt. We can work together." At this moment, Lu Ming spoke. The reason why they didn't mention working together before was because they knew that the extreme Yin corpse or the golden-eyed Yin corpse wouldn't listen to them before they displayed enough strength. Without strength, how could they work together? They would probably be torn apart by the extreme Yin corpse. But now, Lu Ming and the others had displayed overwhelming strength. At least in terms of peak strength, Lu Ming and the others had the upper hand. If they mentioned it now, the other party would have to consider it. Sure enough, after hearing Lu Ming's words, the golden-eyed Yin corpse's golden eyes flickered and the black aura on its body fluctuated violently. "How do you know about the immortal molt?" The golden-eyed Yin corpse asked. "You don't have to worry about this. I promise you that as long as we work together, we will try our best to help you obtain the immortal molt. How about it?" Lu Ming said loudly. "Stop!" The golden-eyed Yin corpse's eyes turned and then roared. All the extreme Yin corpses suddenly stopped and quickly retreated behind the golden-eyed Yin corpse, forming a square formation. "Is what you said true?" The golden-eyed Yin corpse stared at Lu Ming and asked. His intelligence was very high and was no different from other living beings. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng's combat strength wasn't below his. It wouldn't do him any good to continue fighting. He might as well listen to what Lu Ming had to say. Of course, if Lu Ming and the others weren't strong enough, he wouldn't bother listening to their nonsense and would directly tear them apart. Of course it's true. I know that the extreme Yin tribe's immortal molt is in that ancient city. You want to obtain the immortal molt to evolve your bloodline. Lu Ming continued. Chapter 49-36. Hearing Lu Ming's words, the black aura around the golden eye Yin corpse fluctuated again. Lu Ming knew that the information given by Tseng Qiong was right. However, it's impossible for you to obtain the immortal's molt. You and your subordinates are too weak. Believe it or not, the baleful Yin tribe, Yuanguang tribe, and Songming tribe have all arrived. There are 6 of them who are no weaker than you. They are also eyeing the immortal's molt of the extreme Yin tribe. It's a fool's dream for you to snatch the immortal's molt from them alone. Lu Ming said bluntly. Even if I cooperate with you, it's still difficult to snatch the immortal molt from the 3 tribes. The golden eye Yin corpse said. Our strength is naturally not enough. If we cooperate with the extreme Yin corpses in the other two regions, it might be possible. Lu Ming said. Cooperate with those guys? Impossible. Let me tell you, the three of us often fight and compete with each other. This time, all three of us want to obtain the immortal molt. Why would we cooperate? The Golden Eye Yin corpse shook his head repeatedly. If you don't cooperate, the three of you can forget about obtaining the immortal molt. It's only possible if you cooperate. Moreover, after obtaining the immortal molt, the three of you can equally share the benefits. You don't have to fight to the death. Lu Ming said. This, the Golden Eye Yin corpse was deep in thought. It was obvious that he was persuaded by Lu Ming. I can swear that I won't take anything from the extreme Yin tribe's immortal molt. It's all yours. Lu Ming added. I'm just afraid that the other guys won't agree. The Golden Eye Yin corpse said hesitantly. As long as you explain the pros and cons, I believe that they will agree. Okay, I promise you. In the end, the Golden Eye Yin corpse agreed. How many experts of your level are there in the three of you? Lu Ming asked. 4. The Golden Eye Yin corpse gave a simple introduction. Of the three regions, 2 of them had a Golden Eye Yin corpse overseeing them, and 1 of them had 2 Golden Eye Yin corpses. This was the same as what Lu Ming knew. When Gaishak fought with the extreme Yin corpse in a certain area, 2 golden-eyed Yin corpses had appeared in that area. Lu Ming originally did not know the specific strength of these 3 areas and was afraid that there would be hidden Golden Eye Yin corpses. It seemed like he had overestimated the strength of the absolute Yin corpse. They immediately set out and headed towards the area that was only guarded by a single golden-eyed Yin corpse. They did not hide their auras and were discovered by the absolute Yin corpses the moment they arrived. A large number of absolute Yin corpses rushed out. However, these absolute Yin corpses did not attack. It was clear that there were large amounts of absolute Yin corpses beside Lu Ming's group. The absolute Yin corpses in this area were shocked and doubtful. The silver-eyed Yin corpses stopped the normal absolute Yin corpses from attacking. Saber Jew, I didn't expect you to mix with outsiders. There was a loud roar, and a wild aura surged out. The golden-eyed Yin corpse had appeared in this area. Saber Extinction was the name of the golden-eyed Yin corpse that had agreed to cooperate with Lu Ming. He held a pitch-black battle saber in his hand and named it after that. The golden-eyed Yin corpse in this area held a battle halberd. When its golden eyes swept over Lu Ming's group, they were filled with cold killing intent. When Lu Ming's group had just stepped onto this island, they had unintentionally stepped onto this dark red land and had clashed with the absolute Yin corpses here. Lu Ming even killed a silver-eyed Yin corpse and fought a great battle with a golden-eyed Yin corpse who was holding a halberd. This golden-eyed Yin corpse was filled with killing intent towards Lu Ming's group. It was normal. If Lu Ming and Saber Extinction were not standing together, he would have already ordered his subordinates to attack. Halberd Extinction, Lu Ming and I have already teamed up. I came to find you today because I hope we can work together. Saber Extinction said. Halberd Extinction was the name of this golden-eyed Yin corpse. Like Saber Extinction, it was named after the weapon it controlled. Their weapons were something they were born with ever since they gained sentience. Haha, Saber Extinction, you are actually teaming up with outsiders. Ridiculous. It is impossible for me to join forces with these outsiders. Halberd Extinction laughed. We were only trying to protect ourselves in the previous battle. Please forgive us if we have offended you. As for joining forces, it will be of great benefit to you. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, Haha, what benefit will it bring me? Halberd Extinction sneered. It can help you obtain the immortal molting. Lu Ming said. Halberd Extinction's eyes suddenly flickered a few times. I can obtain the immortal molting myself. Why should I join forces with you? Halberd Extinction said stubbornly. In the current situation, it is impossible for you to obtain the immortal molting alone. Not to mention other things, you can't compete with Sword Extinction and Fist Extinction. Not to mention, there are 6 experts from the Baleful Yin race, Primordial Light race and Blue Sea race who are not weaker than you. Lu Ming said bluntly. Halberd Extinction fell into silence. Evidently, he knew that Lu Ming was telling the truth. There were too many experts from all sides. He could not even compete with the other extreme Yin corpses on his side. How could he compete with the creatures from the forbidden areas? To be honest, you can't obtain the immortal molting of the extreme Yin race alone. Only by joining forces can we obtain the immortal molting. You can also get a part of it. Lu Ming continued. If you want to cooperate with me, you have to see if you have the qualifications. Halberd Extinction said. Lu Ming smiled. He knew that Halberd Extinction had been persuaded. He exchanged a look with Gu Changfeng. Then, Gu Changfeng took a step forward and punched Extreme Halberd with his Genesis technique, Bright Moon Wind Fist. The violent fist force made Halberd Extinction's expression turn grave. He hurriedly waved his halberd to block Gu Changfeng's fist force, but his body was forced back 2 steps. Do you have the qualifications to join forces with me? Lu Ming asked with a smile. Halberd Extinction and Lu Ming had fought before, so he naturally knew how powerful Lu Ming was. Lu Ming and Gu Changfeng together were 2 invincible divine masters. Although they had fewer people, they were fully qualified to cooperate with him. Okay, I agree to cooperate with you. But if we want to compete with the evil Yin race, Yuanguang race and Songming race, we need to join forces with Sword Extinction and Fist Extinction. Halberd Extinction said. Sword Extinction and Fist Extinction were the 2 extreme Yin Corpse Kings in the 3rd area. The negotiation with the 2 Corpse Kings was unexpectedly smooth. When Lu Ming and the others explained their intentions, the 2 extreme Yin Corpse Kings agreed without much hesitation. This was normal. If they did not agree, how could they compete with the others? Let alone the creatures from the 3 forbidden areas, even Lu Ming and the others had 4 invincible divine masters. Only by joining forces would they benefit. The 2 sides hit it off and formed an alliance. Brother Lu, I need to find a place to go into seclusion and cultivate for a while. Lu Ming gave Song Qiong a piece of origin spirit tea according to their agreement. Then, Song Qiong said goodbye. Chapter 49-37. Song Qiong said goodbye. Obviously, Song Qiong wanted to raise his cultivation to the peak of the Divine Master Realm before the ancient city opened. Coincidentally, Lu Ming also had the same plan. This time, he had obtained a total of 15 Origin God Tea leaves. According to legend, a single leaf of the Origin God Tea was enough to allow a person to break through from the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm to the peak of the Divine Master Realm. He gave Song Qiong a piece, and there were still 14 pieces left. Among them, Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Wan Shen, Dandan, Bubbles, Tang Jun, and himself, there were a total of 8 people, all of whom were 9th level Divine Masters. Each of them needed 1 Origin God Tea leaf, and there were 6 more. Even if Lu Ming had a mysterious power and needed a lot of resources to break through, 1 leaf might not be enough, so he would get 2. If 2 were not enough, then he would get 3. 7 leaves should be enough. Lu Ming and the 4 extreme Yin Corpse Kings agreed that once the ancient city's formation was broken, they would rush in together. Then, they planned to leave and find a place to cultivate in seclusion. However, before Lu Ming and the others could leave, something happened. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion sounded. The earth and the void shook crazily as if there was an earthquake with a magnitude of more than 10. The ground under Lu Ming's feet shook violently. What happened? Look over there. At the center of the island, a purple-golden light soared into the sky and dyed the entire sky purple-golden. It's that ancient city, Dandan exclaimed. Could it be that the ancient city's formation has been broken and is about to open? Xian Yanqing said. It seems that all the treasures in the Qi channels have been dug out. The ancient city's formation has no energy to maintain, so something abnormal has happened. Gu Mo said. It's about to open. The real immortal kingdom is about to open. I can feel a strong and pure extreme Yin Qi. It's the immortal Qi. The extreme Yin Corpse Kings looked in the direction of the ancient city with fiery eyes. Lu Ming and the others frowned. They could indeed feel a shocking Qi coming from the ancient city. This Qi was like the might of the heavens, high and mighty, looking down on all living things, making Lu Ming and the others feel a great pressure. However, Lu Ming took a closer look and discovered that there were 2 auras mixed in this aura. Both of them were extremely terrifying. "Let's go and take a look," Lu Ming said. Without needing him to speak, the 4 extreme Yin corpse kings had already charged towards the ancient city with the extreme Yin corpses. Lu and the others followed closely behind. Soon, they were close to the ancient city. The ancient city's heavens, heavenly divine light, heavenly God, the heavenly Tao, heavens, heavenly to the ancient city, heavenly heavens, to the heavens, heavenly to Ming and the heavens. It seems that the ancient city's formation is completely maintained by the 9 qi veins. Otherwise, it would have already collapsed. Now that the 9 qi veins have no more resources, the formation will naturally not be able to maintain itself. Dandan explained. Roar, roar. There were at least a few thousand extreme Yin corpses around. They were very excited and kept roaring, the sound waves spreading out like waves. On the other side of the ancient city, there were many figures. They were the evil Yin race, primordial light race, and Songming race. Leading them were Gaishak, Lord of the Underworld, Yuan Wuji, Yuan Liuji, Prince Kanglo, and Prince Tsongqing, the 6 invincible divine lord experts. However, Princess Tsongxian, Dark Night Rose, was nowhere to be seen. Moreover, the number of beings in the Forbidden Grounds had decreased by a lot. There were only about 1,000 of them in total. These 1,000 or so creatures were all experts. Most of them were able to set up joint attack formations. Those with weaker cultivation bases and battle prowess were not here. The beings in the Forbidden Grounds naturally heard the roars of the extreme Yin corpses. "It's those extreme Yin bastards," Gaishak harumphed coldly. "From the sounds, the number is shocking. Looks like the extreme Yin corpses in the 3 regions have teamed up. Let's not worry about these extreme Yin corpses for now," Yuan Wuji and the others said. Even they were a little wary of so many extreme Yin corpses. Moreover, they did not know that Lu Ming and the others were already with the extreme Yin corpses. The barrier on the ancient city disappeared quickly. In less than an hour, it was almost completely gone. "I didn't expect the ancient city to open at this time. This is really not the right time." Lu Ming sighed inwardly. They had just obtained the origin god tea leaves and were preparing to use them to break through their cultivation. They did not expect the ancient city to open at this time. There was no time left. If they were a few months later, their cultivation might have broken through. However, if they were to break through now, the treasures in the ancient city would have been taken away by the beings in the Forbidden Grounds. Xian Yanqing, Dandan, and the others also sighed. "There are no more formation ripples." After a while, Dandan said. "Go, try it." Jianghu roared. Instantly, a few extreme Yin corpses charged out toward the ancient city. Without causing any abnormalities, the few extreme Yin corpses charged into the ancient city from the city walls. There were no more formations, nor were there any air-sealing domains. "Follow me into the city. Follow me." The 4 extreme Yin corpse kings led their subordinates and charged into the ancient city. "Let's go too," Lu Ming said. They also followed the large group of extreme Yin corpses and charged into the ancient city. However, their bodies were filled with energy and they were ready to attack at any time. Once they noticed that the situation was not right, they would immediately retreat. However, they were overthinking. There were no abnormalities and they successfully entered the ancient city. When they entered the ancient city, they discovered that the void in front of them was constantly extending. "This is spatial folding," Bubbles said. "Yes, spatial folding. From the outside, the ancient city looked very majestic, but the area should not be very large. However, when they entered the ancient city, they discovered that the area of the ancient city was shockingly large. This was spatial folding. This was the real Zixiao Immortal Kingdom. They stood in the sky and looked down. The ground was densely packed with buildings that stretched as far as the eye could see. From this, one could see how prosperous the Zixiao Immortal Kingdom was. Unfortunately, these buildings were all dilapidated. No, not only were they dilapidated, they were almost flattened. There were broken walls and tiles everywhere, and the ground was full of potholes. There were also cracks that seemed to be caused by divine weapons. There were even corpses lying on the ground, as well as all kinds of broken divine weapons and broken armors. This was clearly a battlefield. There were traces of a great battle everywhere. A great battle happened in this ancient city. Dandan whispered, his voice revealing his shock. Be careful, there are many corpses here. Don't turn into extreme Yin corpses. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Xian Yanqing, Qiu Yu and the others. He did not let the other extreme Yin corpses hear him. Immortal molting, immortal molting. At this moment, the 4 extreme Yin corpse kings, including the silver-eyed Yin corpses, were looking straight ahead with fiery eyes.